From a blind date came a sister who is a CEO. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276. Terrified. Su Weifeng came out of the darkness in the middle of the night, which itself brought such a weird atmosphere. In addition, Qiao Yushan had always believed that Su Weifeng was a person with evil magic, otherwise she would not have fallen down for no reason. Now he was immediately frightened, and his legs became weak and his face turned pale. Zheng Dongyuan had also heard Qiao Yushan describe Su Weifeng's ability, and he believed it, otherwise he would not have found a Taoist priest to break the evil magic. At this time, Qiao Yushan was scared, and he was also scared, stammering, "Master, Master." The Taoist priest snorted and said, "He dares to be rampant in front of me with such little evil magic. You two hold him down, and I will use my secret method to break his evil magic directly." The two young men's faces suddenly turned black. "Your evil magic has not been broken yet, and you let us hold it down. Isn't this sending them to death?" The two men hesitated and dared not to do it. The Taoist shouted loudly, "You two idiots, if you don't hold him down, my magic will not work. Hurry up and do it." Su Weifeng grinned, bared his teeth, and said sinisterly, "You are so bold that you actually come to trouble me. Today I will make you die without a burial place." As he spoke, he approached several people and flicked his finger. A small stone hit the leg of a young man. Plop. The boy was already frightened, and his legs were weak. After being hit in the acupuncture points, he fell to the ground with a plop. In the eyes of others, no one touched him. He just fell for no reason. Qiao Yushan immediately screamed, as if a cat's tail was stepped on. "That's it. That's it." He used evil magic again. Her shouting made everyone's faces turn green with fear. "Master! Master!" Zheng Dongyuan hurriedly called for help. "Hey, where is the master?" After a while, the master ran away. He was clearly a charlatan. He was just a charlatan, but he didn't have any real skills. This time, he was scared to death when he saw such a weird thing. He didn't want to lose his life here. The two young men also reacted quickly and ran away. Even the one who fell to the ground just now ran away. Qiao Yushan and Zheng Dongyuan also wanted to run, but as soon as they turned around, their legs went weak, and they fell to the ground. He cast a spell again. "That's it. That's it." Qiao Yushan was a little hysterical. Zheng Dongyuan had experienced this feeling personally, and Qiao Yushan's reaction made him, an old man, almost piss himself. The two sat on the ground, hugging each other tightly, as if they could get some courage from each other, but in fact, this could only be said to be a dying attempt to grab a life-saving straw. This matter has nothing to do with me. I just came to watch the fun." Zheng Dongyuan watched Su Weifeng getting closer and closer to them. Under the instinct of self-protection, how could he talk about friendship at this time? Besides, he and Qiao Yushan could not be said to have a real friendship. They just had some business cooperation and the two of them had sex a few times. "It has nothing to do with you? Didn't you find that Taoist priest?" Su Weifeng asked coldly. Zheng Dongyuan was frightened, and his face turned green. He said anxiously, "I was wrong. I was wrong. I was instigated by this woman. Otherwise, I really wouldn't dare to offend you." Su Weifeng snorted and said, "No matter what the reason, if you want to deal with me, you have to pay a sufficient price." As he spoke, Su Weifeng approached the two again. In fact, the distance between him and the two was only a few meters away, but he deliberately walked forward slowly step by step. The pressure on Zheng Dongyuan and Qiao Yushan's hearts was indescribably great. Qiao Yushan, the woman, was about to collapse. She sat on the ground and tried her best to move back with her buttocks. Tears were flowing down her cheeks. "Don't come over. Don't come over. Uncle, I was wrong. I shouldn't have troubled you. Please let me go." Su Weifeng looked at them like this and lost interest all of a sudden. "Humph." Su Weifeng snorted coldly and walked past the two of them, not wanting to pay attention to them anymore. "Uncle, uncle." Qiao Yushan shouted at the top of her lungs. Su Weifeng turned his head, frowned, and said, "What are you doing? Can you let me go?" Cheyenne Fair said hesitantly. As long as you let me go, I'll do anything you want. Zheng Dongyuan also said quickly, you can ask for any amount of money. Su Weifeng snorted and said, I don't want to bother with you. Then he quickened his pace and entered the training center in a few steps. Cheyenne Fair and Zheng Dongyuan looked at each other. After a long time, they got up. Asshole, what kind of Taoist priest did you find? It's useless. Cheyenne Fair scolded Zheng Dongyuan angrily. Zheng Dongyuan's mouth twitched and said, you still blame me? You have hurt me so much. I have offended such a powerful person. What should I do in the future? I didn't know he was so powerful. Cheyenne Fair was about to cry. I feel that the guy you provoked is too evil. Otherwise you should just forget it. If you make an enemy of such a person, who knows when he will use some evil magic, which is absolutely impossible to guard against. Cheyenne Fair's mouth twitched and said, I would like to forget it, but I offended him again today, and he will not let me go easily. Zheng Dongyuan thought for a while and said, didn't you say that he was accompanied by a little girl? You made enemies with him. Didn't you have a conflict with his female companion? Find a way to please his companion. Maybe you can cover this matter up. Cheyenne Fair said, it seems to be the case. I'm a little confused now. Can you give me some ideas? Zheng Dongyuan said, girls are generally easier to coax. What cosmetics, jewelry, pick up the good ones and give them to her. She will be happy soon, and then ask her to say a few good words, and then this matter will be covered up. Cheyenne Fair nodded repeatedly and said, okay, I'll do it tomorrow, but I feel that the little girl doesn't seem to like these things. She doesn't have any valuable things on her. Zheng Dongyuan said, you have to figure it out slowly. Maybe she doesn't have it now, and if you give it to her, she will like it. If she really doesn't like this kind of thing, you must find out what she likes, get close to her, and solve this problem. Otherwise, I'm afraid we won't be able to sleep every night in the future. Chapter 277 Cheyenne Fair's Flattery. The next morning, after breakfast, Sun Yumeng came to the classroom early. Others might regard this study as a formality, but for her, this is definitely a rare learning opportunity. Just as she sat down, a fragrant breeze came over, and a woman stood beside her. Sun Yumeng turned around and saw Cheyenne Fair, and was immediately startled. She stood up quickly and hid inside. Now Su Weifeng has not come yet. If Cheyenne Fair does anything bad to her, she has no way to deal with it. It happened that a man who helped Cheyenne Fair in the yard that day came over and was shocked when he saw such a scene. Sun Yumeng, this little girl, is very simple, but she is Su Weifeng's person, who is a very strange person. Cheyenne Fair actually came to make trouble. Isn't this asking for trouble? Cheyenne Fair, you. He was also kind-hearted and quickly pulled Cheyenne Fair. Cheyenne Fair knew what he meant and said hurriedly, I'm here to apologize to classmate Sunday. Apologize. Sun Yumeng looked at Cheyenne Fair in confusion. Cheyenne Fair nodded repeatedly and said in the most sincere tone, Student Sun, I really went too far that day. You just stepped on my shoes accidentally, but I actually made such an impolite request and insulted your personality. I thought about it over and over again, and the more I thought about it, the more I felt guilty. How could I do this to my classmates? How could I do such a cruel thing? I really want to slap myself twice now. While speaking, Cheyenne Fair actually raised her hand and slapped herself twice. The sound was so loud that everyone in the whole classroom could hear it. Everyone was extremely surprised. Although Cheyenne Fair's strength in this class was only average, she was still a world apart from people from small companies like Sun Yumeng. Even if something unpleasant happened, Cheyenne Fair didn't need to apologize to Sun Yumeng, let alone use such an extreme method as slapping herself. Sun Yumeng was even more frightened. For a moment, she was at a loss and had no idea how to deal with this situation. Cheyenne Fair, are you crazy? Wu Kuanai yelled with his eyes wide open. Her boss is just the manager of a small company, and she is just a small screenwriter. Do you have to be like this? Wu Kuanai's words were almost the voice of most people here. Cheyenne Fair ignored Wu Kuanai and quickly took out 2 boxes from her bag and handed them to Sun Yumeng with both hands and said carefully, Sun classmate, this is a little gift from me. I don't know if you like this kind of thing. You can play with it first. Oh my god, Bulgari's bracelet and necklace. These two things cost 70,000 or 80,000 yuan. Almost everyone here has a certain understanding of luxury goods. As soon as they saw the box, they knew what it was, and some people exclaimed. It is normal for everyone to give gifts of this price in business dealings, but it depends on who they are giving it to. Giving it to Sun Yumeng would make everyone feel that the gift is very heavy. Wu Kuan'ai strode over, first looked at Sun Yumeng, then looked at Qianfei, and said, Qianfei, what are you doing? You are degrading yourself. If there is anything, I will help you. I'm also going to settle accounts with them. Let's settle the old and new accounts with them together. Qianfei's eyes widened immediately and said, you want to cause trouble for them? Of course, this bastard dared to fight. Humph, my hatred with them is considered to be settled. I will never let them go. Two bastards from small companies dared to challenge me. If I don't deal with them, and make them kneel in front of me, and call me dad, I'm not Wu Kuan'ai. Qianfei's face suddenly showed a look of horror, and she quickly stuffed the things into Sun Yumeng's hands and said, Student Sun, what happened between him and you has nothing to do with me. I sincerely apologize to you. Then, without waiting for Sun Yumeng to refuse, she walked away quickly. Qianfei, what do you mean? I'm helping you. Wu Kuan'ai shouted in dissatisfaction. Qianfei said very straightforwardly, whatever you want to do is your business, don't drag me into it. Damn it. Wu Kuan'ai was also a little confused at this time. What was going on? Usually, Qianfei also wanted to curry favor with him, but he didn't pay much attention to this woman. Now he took the initiative to show his goodwill, but Qianfei actually refused directly, and she avoided him directly, as if she saw the plague god. Everyone also saw that Qianfei didn't want to have anything to do with Wu Kuan'ai at all. Everyone was worried all of a sudden. Wu Kuan'ai was unhappy, but he didn't pay attention to Qianfei anymore, but stared at Sun Yumeng. Sun Yumeng felt a little scared when Wu Kuan'ai was staring at her, but when she thought that this was a training center and a classroom, and Su Weifeng would be here soon, she became bolder and met Wu Kuan'ai's gaze and said, Classmate Wu, what can I do for you? Classmate? Wu Kuan'ai curled his lips and said, you really take yourself seriously. Who are you to dare to talk to me about being a classmate? Sun Yumeng bit her lip and said, I don't care who you are outside, but if you study here, you are a classmate. Ha, you are really good at flattering yourself. I understand why you guys who dug holes in doors and stole holes come here to study. After graduation, you can go out and say that you are classmates with me, and then you can show off and even cheat some projects and contracts. Am I right? Sun Yumeng's face suddenly flushed, and she said, we don't have such an idea. HMPH, I know you guys too well. You always want to get in touch with people in big companies. But you'd better remember that it's useless to mention us. We won't support you because you don't deserve to be our classmates at all. But at this moment, Qianfei, who had already walked away, suddenly turned around and stood in front of Sun Yumeng. Wu Kuan'ai frowned and said, Qianfei, what are you doing? Qianfei took a breath, then straightened her chest and said, Wu Kuan'ai, you don't have to consider her as a classmate, but I definitely consider her as a classmate. Isn't it a bit too much for you to insult your classmates like this? Qianfei, you actually want to stand up for her? Wu Kuan'ai almost doubted his ears. Qianfei didn't come to curry favor with him, but why did she help Sun Yumeng? Wasn't she afraid of offending him? Chapter 278 Unfathomable. Qianfei secretly complained in her heart. She was naturally aware of Wu Kuan'ai's strength. If she offended Wu Kuan'ai, she would be in big trouble in the future. But when she thought of Su Weifeng's weird methods, she couldn't help but feel scared. This kind of method that people couldn't solve was more terrifying. If she offended Wu Kuan'ai, she might suffer some setbacks in her career, but if one company couldn't cooperate, other companies would have a chance to make up for it. But if she didn't repair her relationship with Su Weifeng now, she didn't know when her life would be gone. After weighing the pros and cons, of course, Su Weifeng should be the most important. So Qianfei was briefly conflicted, then she puffed out her chest and said, I'm not standing up for anyone. We are all classmates. Why do we have to target anyone? Since you, Mr. Wu, think you have a high status, shouldn't you also have the mind of a big man? The way you are now can't help but make people feel that you are petty and bullying others. Wu Kuanao's face became even uglier after what Qiao Fei said, and said, it's her honor for her to be bullied by me. Bah. You, Wu Kuanao, are really promising. You bully a little girl. I, Zheng Yulong, regard you as an opponent. I really feel sick. I'm really ashamed of your Wu family for having someone like you. You are still showing off here. Do you really think you are the best in our class? Zheng Yulong and Zhao Mingyang came over later, and at this time they immediately came over and sprayed Wu Kuanao. Okay. Wu Kuanao gnashed his teeth and looked at the two of them, saying, you two guys, I really gave you face, but now you are getting more and more presumptuous. It seems that, if I don't teach you a lesson, you really think you can be on equal footing with me. Zheng Yulong said disdainfully, Wu Kuanao, put away your tricks. You are just relying on the Wu family. The Wu family is strong, but who do you think you are, Wu Kuanao? Putting aside the Wu family, are you really stronger than us? My Wu family is stronger than your Zheng family and Zhao family. You two have to keep your tails between your legs in front of me. Your attitude today has already annoyed me. You will bear the wrath of our Wu family from now on. Zhao Mingyang sneered at Wu Kuanao and said, bah, as if you have the final say in the Wu family. If you really have the ability, we will continue. I'm just afraid that you don't have this ability. At this time, the teacher walked in and saw the noise here. He immediately shouted, what are you doing? This is a classroom. Go back to your seats. Although the training teachers here are not particularly powerful people, they have a certain authority here, and no one is easy to offend. Wu Kuanao snorted and said, you guys wait for me. Then he turned around and left. Things calmed down. Everyone was whispering. Today's things are still a bit abnormal. First of all, it's Qiao Fei's attitude. Everyone knows that Qiao Fei is a very powerful woman. Most people don't look down on her. She will deliberately try to please those who are stronger than her, but she has always been very arrogant to those who are weaker than her. Now she actually took the initiative to please Sun Yumeng, even slapped herself, and then gave gifts, and even offended Wu Kuanao, and stood up for Sun Yumeng. Then there are Zhao Mingyang and Zheng Yulong. Although these two people usually go against Wu Kuanao, it is often Wu Kuanao who provokes trouble. They passively fight back, and they often leave room for words, and dare not offend Wu Kuanao too hard. But this time, the two of them directly declared war on Wu Kuanao. Qiao Fei, Zheng Yulong, and Zhao Mingyang's attitudes were also abnormal, and they were all because of the little girl Sun Yumeng, which seemed to have explained a problem. Everyone was smart and clever, and they had analyzed some very important information from these situations. Sun Yumeng might not be a great person, but Su Weifeng, the manager of a small company, was not that simple. Then soon everyone got some more information. Qiao Fei and Sun Yumeng had a conflict first, and then Su Weifeng dealt with them. Wu Kuanao was beaten by Su Weifeng yesterday. These things were seen by someone, and the people who saw them didn't want to embarrass Qiao Fei and Wu Kuanao, so they didn't say anything. But under this situation, these news still came out, and quickly spread throughout the class. Then it was reported that Zhao Mingyang and Zheng Yulong took Su Weifeng to Huaitang for dinner, as if they were deliberately trying to please Su Weifeng. All this proves one thing, Su Weifeng is not simple. Zhao Mingyang and Zheng Yulong both know Su Weifeng's identity, and Qiao Fei also knows it, so he apologized like this. Su Weifeng was almost the last one to enter the classroom. As soon as he entered the classroom, he found that all the students in the classroom turned their heads to look at him. There was a kind of suspicion and fear in their eyes. This made Su Weifeng a little confused. What was going on? He sat next to Sun Yumeng. Sun Yumeng simply told her what had just happened. Su Weifeng chuckled and said, you are quite sensible. You should keep the things given to you. Sun Yumeng was startled and said, ah, I keep it? Isn't that bad? Su Weifeng said, who made him offend you? This is also the mental compensation she should give you, and it is what you deserve. Don't be polite to her. At this time, the class started, and Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng were not convenient to chat anymore. And those classmates were under the table at this time, contacting people with their mobile phones, to check Su Weifeng's situation. Soon, some people still found out something. This Dream Film and Television is invested by Mingyang Company. Mingyang Film and Television Company is one of the top 10 film and television companies in the country, and its status is much higher than these companies, so seeing this endorsement is also shocking. But this kind of thing doesn't mean anything. You know, such big companies often invest in some companies with potential, not just Mingyang Film and Television Company. Many companies here will make such investments. This kind of investment often invests several million, and if the company does well, it can often bring great returns. So Mingyang is the background of Su Weifeng's company, which is an exaggeration. And even if Su Weifeng's company has the background of Mingyang Company, there is no reason for Xianfei, Zheng Yulang and Zhao Mingyang to please him, unless he is the real company executive of Mingyang Company. After checking, everyone is still unpredictable about Su Weifeng's situation. Chapter 279 It's my fault. Xianfei, what are you doing today? Someone who has a good relationship with Xianfei and happened to see the conflict between Xianfei and Su Weifeng that day secretly sent a message to Xianfei. You can't afford to offend this person. You'd better not offend him again. Xianfei didn't say in detail. She couldn't explain this kind of thing clearly. The guy still didn't give up and asked, is it because of his background or his weird ability? The guy immediately understood. He saw Xianfei fall down inexplicably. Xianfei was so scared. It is very likely that she found Su Weifeng again afterwards and truly verified this ability. He secretly glanced at Su Weifeng, and he was secretly scared. This kind of thing that makes people confused is the most frightening. He told the information of Xianfei to those who saw it. Then these people didn't notify anyone else. The reason is very simple. Everyone seems to be in harmony, but everyone is competing. If you see others suffer, you will only be secretly happy, hoping that others will also go to Su Weifeng and be punished. After studying in the evening, Su Weifeng took Sun Yumeng away from the training center. Wu Kuan'Yao is a person who is very radical in doing things. Su Weifeng really dare not leave Sun Yumeng alone here. The car that ZHU Xiaoxuan brought this time was a very ordinary Mercedes-Benz, and it didn't even have the ZHU family logo. After what happened yesterday, she was much more careful. When Su Weifeng and his friends got on the car, several classmates still saw it. A Mercedes-Benz car was too ordinary for them, so no one would associate it with the ZHU family. Once again came to the small courtyard of Grandpa ZHU Xianfeng. Su Weifeng started to adjust ZHU Xianfeng's body directly. ZHU Xiaoxuan and Sun Yumeng were chatting casually outside. It took 2 hours before Su Weifeng came out alone. Where is my grandfather? ZHU Xiaoxuan asked nervously. Su Weifeng smiled and said, please arrange for someone to give the old man a bath. ZHU Xiaoxuan hurried to the door and then smelled a fishy smell. Just as he was about to go in, he heard the old man's roar. What are you doing here? Hurry up and ask someone to prepare water for me. I want to take a bath. ZHU Xiaoxuan hurriedly retreated and called the servants to prepare water for the old man to take a bath. After arranging it, ZHU Xiaoxuan looked at Su Weifeng and asked, my grandpa? Su Weifeng said casually, it's just to expel some toxins from the body. Just take a bath. I'll go and rest for a while. ZHU Xiaoxuan then noticed that Su Weifeng's face was a little pale, which was clearly a kind of fatigue from excessive consumption. He immediately said apologetically, I'm sorry, I was just worried about my grandpa. You can sleep in this room for a while. Su Weifeng was not polite and lay down on the bed directly. Su Weifeng usually doesn't do physical conditioning for others. It is really a very strenuous and extremely exhausting thing. This is also because the ZHU family helped him a lot these times, so he took care of the old man. Sun Yumeng sat next to Su Weifeng, wiped the sweat on his head with a hot towel, and said worriedly, Mr. Su, are you okay? Su Weifeng smiled slightly and said, it's okay, just rest for 2 days. That's good. This is the first time I see you so tired. I'm really worried. The worry on Sun Yumeng's face did not diminish. Su Weifeng smiled and said, don't worry so much, I'm a big man, I recover quickly. By the way, get me some water, I'm a little thirsty. Okay. Sun Yumeng hurriedly poured a cup of warm water and then came over to help Su Weifeng sit up. Su Weifeng was indeed quite weak at this time. If he was in his prime, it would naturally not be like this, but this time, he really consumed all his true energy, and he was so tired that he had to lean on Sun Yumeng's shoulder when he sat. I'm sorry. Su Weifeng felt that he not only pressed Sun Yumeng's shoulder, but also pressed on the place he shouldn't have pressed, and immediately said apologetically. Sun Yumeng's pretty face turned red, and she said shyly, "It's okay, drink some water first." Su Weifeng drank the water, and Sun Yumeng tried to put Su Weifeng down carefully. She wanted to put Su Weifeng down gently, but she ignored her own strength. She couldn't control Su Weifeng's body at all. Ouch. Sun Yumeng cried out, and Su Weifeng fell down with her, and she threw herself on Su Weifeng. Ah. Zhu Xiaoxuan's voice came from behind. She had just arranged for her grandfather to come over and wanted to see Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng, and saw the two hugging each other. When Sun Yumeng heard this voice, she was embarrassed and wanted to get up, but Su Weifeng pressed her arm under her back, and she couldn't get up for a while. Zhu Xiaoxuan chuckled and said, "I didn't see anything, you continue." He quickly retreated and closed the door. Sun Yumeng finally pulled her arm out, her face red. She dared not look at Su Weifeng. Her face was so embarrassed that blood was about to drip. Su Weifeng was also quite embarrassed, and for a moment, he didn't know how to resolve this embarrassment. The room suddenly fell into silence, and the more silent it was, the more charming the atmosphere became. "Boss Su, I'm sorry, I didn't support you just now, and Sun Yumeng twisted the corner of her clothes with both hands, stammering and unable to continue. Su Weifeng was amused by Sun Yumeng and said, "You let me take advantage of you, and you apologize to me." Sun Yumeng immediately said in a panic, "No, I took advantage of Boss Su." "You took advantage of me?" Su Weifeng looked at Sun Yumeng in surprise. Sun Yumeng said guiltily, "Yes, you can't move now, so I hugged you. It's obviously me who took advantage of you. I don't know how to face President Lin." Su Weifeng suddenly felt a deep warmth in his heart, but he held Sun Yumeng's hand and said, "Silly girl, men always take advantage of this kind of thing. I just hope you don't blame me." No, absolutely not. President Su is so good to me, I should respect you. If you took advantage of me, I should feel uncomfortable, but when I hugged you, I actually felt excited and happy in my heart, which means I took advantage of you. Su Weifeng was speechless for a moment, and after a long while he said, "Okay, what you said seems to be correct." Sun Yumeng stuck out her tongue and said, "Yes, I took advantage of you, so I should apologize to you." Su Weifeng couldn't help but smile. This girl's mind is really pure. Who wouldn't like such a girl? Whoever really marries this girl will definitely be the happiest man in the world. Chapter 280 The Threat of Mercenaries. After a short rest, Su Weifeng recovered some of his strength. At least he was no different from an ordinary person, and there was no problem with his movements. The old man and Zhu Xiaoxuan came into the room at this time. The old man's face was now ruddy, and his eyes, which had been a little dim, were now bright black. As soon as he came in, he excitedly said to Su Weifeng, "Xiao Su, this is simply amazing. I feel several years younger in an instant. I have a lot of strength. Now even if I find a young man, I can knock him down with one punch." As he said this, the old man raised his right arm, clenched his fist, and made a bodybuilding pose. Su Weifeng also sat up, and Sun Yumeng hurriedly supported him from behind, fearing that Su Weifeng would not be able to sit still. As for letting Zhu Xiaoxuan and the old man see it, she didn't care. Su Weifeng smiled and said, "Grandpa, don't do any strenuous exercise recently. Your muscles and bones still need a period of recovery. If you are tired during this period, it will affect the effect." The old man put his hand down immediately and said, "Fortunately, I only posed one pose. I almost wanted to try it just now." Zhu Xiaoxuan also said happily, "Does my grandpa's current condition mean that his body has recovered well?" Su Weifeng said, "Of course, I dare not say that he is immune to all diseases recently, but at least he will not have any major problems for 3 to 5 years. Awesome. It's really amazing. Your trick is simply amazing." The old man gave a thumbs up. He knew his own body. Originally, with his physical condition, he would have no problem living for another 3 to 5 years, but his body was getting weaker and weaker. But now he feels like a man in his 50s or 60s, and he will have no problem living for another 10 or 20 years. This seems to be just a problem with his own body, but for the entire ZHU family, it can guarantee the glory of 10 to 20 years. As long as the old man is still there, no one dares to touch their ZHU family. Grandpa. ZHU Jianben walked in with a voice. Ah, Grandpa, why is your face so red? ZHU Jianben immediately saw the difference in the old man, and shouted in panic. Sister, why don't you take Grandpa to see a doctor? His face is so red, is there something wrong? ZHU Xiaoxuan rolled her eyes at ZHU Jianben and said, what nonsense are you talking about? Grandpa just asked Brother Su to take care of him, and now he is in good health. ZHU Shai and Feng laughed and said, yes, Jianben, Xiao Su has made my body very good this time. I will have no problem living for another 10 or 20 years. Is it true? ZHU Jianben looked at the old man carefully with suspicion. As a member of the ZHU family, he naturally knew the significance of the old man of the ZHU family to the ZHU family. If this is true, it will definitely have a huge impact on the ZHU family. ZHU Shai and Feng glared and said, of course it's true. I'm kidding you. Why don't you thank Xiao Su properly? ZHU Jianben felt that the old man spoke with full energy, and his spirit was indeed very good. He turned to look at Su Weifeng and said, Brother Su, if this is true, you are the benefactor of my ZHU family. I, ZHU Jianben, will definitely remember your kindness in the future. ZHU Shai and Feng raised his hand and hit ZHU Jianben on the head, saying, you bastard, how can you talk like that? You dare to doubt, don't you even believe what I say? ZHU Jianben staggered forward a step after being hit, covering his head, grinning and said, Grandpa, you beat me to death. The old man looked at his hand, and found that he was really strong. Then he laughed and said, I forgot that I'm strong now. I hit you hard, haha. ZHU Jianben covered his head. At this time, he had no doubts anymore. He once again said to Su Weifeng, Brother Su, I was offended just now. This fact is so amazing, that I couldn't believe it all at once. Now I believe it all. It's worth it. Haha. Everyone laughed, and the atmosphere suddenly became indescribably good. ZHU Jianben didn't make a good first impression on Su Weifeng, but judging from his reaction today, Su Weifeng's impression of him has changed a lot. It seems that the ZHU family's prosperity is also for a reason. There are no playboys in their family. Every child has certain abilities. The prosperity of a family cannot rely on only one person. It requires all kinds of talents, especially the direct descendants of the family. They may not have abilities, but their character must not be bad, otherwise the cohesion of a family will be greatly reduced. After a few people gossiped for a while, ZHU Jianben hesitated. ZHU Shai and Feng glared and said, just say whatever you want to say. Don't try to hide it. ZHU Jianben immediately said, we investigated what happened yesterday, and found out a little bit. These people just came in from abroad recently, and through some connections, we found out that they are from the Wasp mercenary group. ZHU Jianben frowned again and said, these people in the mercenary group are ruthless in killing, and they all have the opportunity to go to the battlefield. Each of them is powerful in combat, and has a super ability to hide. Until now, we haven't found out where they are. ZHU Xiaoxuan also said with a worried look on his face, who wants to deal with us? They even called the mercenary group here. They must have a deep hatred for our ZHU family. The old man also frowned and said, I will ask the security department to investigate this matter. Regardless of whether it is against our ZHU family or not, this kind of organization dares to come to our country to cause trouble, which is absolutely not allowed. Wasp mercenary group. Su Weifeng frowned. The old man of the ZHU family asked, Xiao Su, do you know this mercenary group? Su Weifeng shook his head and said, I haven't heard of it. It should not be very powerful. Su Weifeng knew all the top mercenary groups in the world, but there were tens of thousands of mercenary groups in the world. Su Weifeng was too lazy to learn about the less famous ones. ZHU Jianben's face suddenly darkened and said, "You don't know how terrifying the mercenary group is. They have been doing the most dangerous tasks all year round. These people don't take human lives seriously at all. They are a group of desperate criminals. It's really too difficult to deal with them." Su Weifeng smiled slightly and said, "Right." The old man stared at Su Weifeng's face and said, "Little friend Su, do you know about the mercenary group?" The old man actually changed the way he addressed Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng didn't care and smiled faintly again, saying, "Forget it, learn a little. If you just want to solve the problem of this mercenary group, then I will help you solve it now." Chapter 281 The ZHU Family's Decision. You solve it? ZHU Jianben's eyes widened immediately, looking at Su Weifeng suspiciously, and said, "How do you solve it? Although you saved my sister yesterday, and you are very capable, do you know where they are? How do you solve it?" Su Weifeng said, "Who said that, if I solve them, I must find them?" ZHU Jianben grinned and said, "How can you solve it, if you can't find them? You are joking." ZHU Xiaoxuan glared at ZHU Jianben and said, "Don't always use your thoughts to measure Brother Su. Brother Su, don't bother with him." Su Weifeng said, "No, it's normal for you to doubt. Jianben just speaks more straightforwardly. However, this matter depends on what the old man thinks." The old man narrowed his eyes and said, "What do you mean?" Su Weifeng said, "I can let this mercenary group terminate this mission, then they will not cause trouble to your ZHU family anymore, but you will not be able to find out who wants to touch you for the time being. The mercenary group has rules. I can let them terminate the mission, but I can't force them to tell who the employer is." ZHU Jianben widened his eyes and said, "Oh my god. Is this true? You are exaggerating, aren't you? Even if Grandpa scolds me, I will still have serious doubts." This time, even ZHU Xiaoxuan was a little skeptical. The mercenary group was a mysterious existence for people in the country. Su Weifeng even meant to give them an order when he said this. At this time, the old man ZHU Xianfeng narrowed his eyes, then took a deep breath and said, "Su Xiaoyao, you don't need to help solve this matter." Su Weifeng smiled and said, "Then I won't bother you anymore." The old man laughed and said, "Okay, if we can't solve it, we'll bother Su Xiaoyao then." Su Weifeng nodded and said, "Then we'll leave first." The old man hurriedly said, "It's getting late today, and you've worked so hard. If you don't mind, stay here for one night." ZHU Xiaoxuan also hurriedly said, "Brother Su, we won't go back today. If something happens to you in this state, we will regret it for the rest of our lives." Su Weifeng hesitated for a moment, then nodded and said, "Okay, then I'll rest here." The old man said, "Then I won't disturb your rest." After that, the old man took ZHU Xiaoxuan and ZHU Jianben out. In another room, ZHU Jianben curled his lips and said, "Grandpa, although he has done us a favor, isn't that an exaggeration?" The old man glared at him and said, "You kid are really useless. It's not that you can't do it, that others can't do it. It's not that our ZHU family can't do it, that others can't do it." "What? Grandpa, do you believe he can do it?" ZHU Jianben asked in surprise. The old man said very confidently, "Of course. Su Xiaoyao is definitely not the kind of person who talks casually, nor is he a person who likes to brag. If he can say it, he can definitely do it." ZHU Xiaoxuan also nodded and said, "Yes, I believe it, but I don't understand. Grandpa, why don't you ask Brother Su for help? This will save our ZHU family a lot of danger and trouble." The old man stroked the beard on his chin, smiled slightly, and said, "Our ZHU family has lived comfortably over the years. Everyone has lacked a sense of crisis. Now someone wants to deal with us. This is just the time to exercise the abilities of our ZHU family. This is a rare training opportunity." ZHU Xiaoxuan hesitated for a moment and said, "The other party is a mercenary group, which is likely to cause casualties to our ZHU family." The old man's eyes suddenly became sharp, and said, "Casualties are inevitable, but the casualties of a limited number of people will make all the people in the ZHU family alert, and make all the people in the ZHU family have a sense of crisis. After going through this crisis, it will definitely allow all the people in our ZHU family to be raised to a higher level. That is when our ZHU family will really explode." Zhu Jianbing grinned and said, "This is too dangerous." The old man glared and said, "Heroes can only emerge in troubled times. At this time, if you can survive and even come up with a way to severely damage their mercenary group and dig out the people behind the scenes, then you can be considered to have truly grown up. Otherwise, you are just a flower in a greenhouse." Zhu Jianbing puffed out his chest and said, "Grandpa, you underestimate me a little bit. I'm not a person who is afraid of death." The old man said, "At this time, you must not only be fearless, but also have enough strategy to fight them. Tomorrow, there will be a family meeting. No one from the direct lineage of the Zhu family must be missing." The old man and others were talking about the next arrangements. Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng looked at each other at this time. "They didn't arrange a place for you to stay." Su Weifeng grinned. Sun Yumeng blushed and said, No, I will serve Mr. Su at night." "Serve me?" The expression on Su Weifeng's face suddenly became wonderful. "Yeah." Sun Yumeng nodded first, then suddenly realized something. Her face turned red, and she stammered, "Boss Su, that's not what I meant. I mean, if you drink some water, or go to the fields at night, I can take care of you." "Boss Su, what are you thinking about?" Su Weifeng also smiled awkwardly and said, I know. Big bad guy." Sun Yumeng pouted her little mouth, shy and timid, but even more attractive. Su Weifeng could only rub his nose and said, "I don't have anything to do now. You can ask Zhu Xiaoxuan to arrange a place for you to stay." No, I'm here today. Don't worry, it doesn't matter if I don't sleep all night." Su Weifeng glared and said, "Nonsense, what do you mean by not sleeping? I won't let you serve me like this." Sun Yumeng lowered her head a little aggrieved, and then whispered, "I'll get you some water and wash your face." After that, Sun Yumeng ran out. Outside, the voices of Sun Yumeng and Zhu Xiaoxuan were heard, but the voices were not loud, and Su Weifeng could not hear clearly. Then Zhu Xiaoxuan seemed to leave. After a while, Sun Yumeng came in with a basin of water, wet a towel, came to Su Weifeng, and said, "Mr. Su, let me wipe your face. I can do it myself." "Where's Zhu Xiaoxuan? She left for something," Sun Yumeng said bitterly, and then directly wiped Su Weifeng's face with a towel. Su Weifeng no longer refused, but looking at Sun Yumeng's evasive eyes, he asked, "Did you ask Zhu Xiaoxuan to arrange a room?" No. Sun Yumeng looked even more guilty. Su Weifeng was speechless. This little girl was determined to serve him tonight. Chapter 280 To the Feeling of Heartbeat. "Boss Su, soak your feet." After wiping Su Weifeng's face, Sun Yumeng put the basin beside the bed and helped Su Weifeng sit up. Su Weifeng said with a smile, "I'm not sick and can't get up. You make me feel useless." Sun Yumeng showed a sweet smile and said, "Boss Su usually takes care of me. You have helped me so many times, but I can't help you at all. Now I finally have a chance to show my ability. I will definitely not miss this opportunity." Su Weifeng couldn't help but smile and said, "Then if I don't let you serve me, you will feel uncomfortable?" Sun Yumeng nodded vigorously and said, "That means you, Boss Su, dislike my clumsiness." Su Weifeng shook his head and said, "You little girl, now you can put a hat on me." "Okay, I'll soak my feet." Sun Yumeng immediately showed a happy smile and said, "Thank you, Boss Su, for giving me the opportunity." Su Weifeng put his feet in the basin. The water temperature was neither cold nor hot, just right. Sun Yumeng rolled up Su Weifeng's trouser legs, then directly stretched her hands into the basin and began to help Su Weifeng wash his feet. "Yumeng, how can you wash my feet?" Su Weifeng was shocked. "If it's inconvenient for you, of course I have to wash your feet." Sun Yumeng raised her head with a matter-of-fact expression. Su Weifeng frowned and said, "You are not a girl in the foot washing room. How can I let you do this?" Sun Yumeng smiled sweetly and said, "I feel very happy to have the opportunity to serve Mr. Su like this." Su Weifeng still said awkwardly, "But this is washing feet." In his heart, asking Sun Yumeng to wash his feet was like humiliating Sun Yumeng. Sun Yumeng said with a smile, "If I wash the feet of another man, I will definitely feel uncomfortable, but for President Su, I really don't feel anything. In my heart, President Su, you are like my dearest big brother, even closer than my real brother. I really feel happy to do anything for you." Su Weifeng felt warm in his heart and said, "You silly girl." Sun Yumeng's smile became even brighter. "In front of President Su, I'm willing to be a silly girl for the rest of my life." Sun Yumeng's little hands were very soft, rubbing Su Weifeng's feet in the water, which was really indescribably comfortable. She even rubbed Su Weifeng's toes carefully, which was really very careful. After washing everything, Sun Yumeng lifted Su Weifeng's feet, put them on her legs, and wiped Su Weifeng's feet dry with a towel. A strand of hair fell in front of her face. Sun Yumeng raised her hand to lift the hair, and smiled sweetly at Su Weifeng. This smiling face, this hair flipping action, suddenly touched Su Weifeng's heartstrings. He felt that this was really indescribably beautiful and moving, and Su Weifeng was stunned. "Mr. Su." Sun Yumeng made Su Weifeng blush, and her eyes avoided Su Weifeng's eyes. Su Weifeng came back to his senses, coughed lightly, and was quite embarrassed. Sun Yumeng lowered her head to wipe Su Weifeng's feet, and directly picked up the basin, blushing and said, "I'll go get some water." Then she ran out. Su Weifeng couldn't help shaking his head. What happened to him? He was actually uneasy just now. He had slept with Lin Zhuangxuan and Qiao Yushan many times, but he didn't feel this kind of heartbeat. He was really moved just now. This is definitely not okay. A girl like Sun Yumeng should find someone who knows how to love and care for her. Even if he can really marry and have children at home, Sun Yumeng should not be one of his kind. Soon, Sun Yumeng also came in, obviously having washed up. Smiling at Su Weifeng, Sun Yumeng said, "Mr. Su, go to sleep first. Call me if you need anything." "Yes." Su Weifeng nodded, then looked at Sun Yumeng and said, "What about you?" Sun Yumeng said, "I still need to finish this script. I will work on it today to see if I can finish it." Su Weifeng nodded and closed his eyes. Sun Yumeng stopped talking and took out his phone to start working. Su Weifeng pretended to fall asleep quickly, then squinted his eyes and looked at Sun Yumeng. Sun Yumeng heard Su Weifeng's long breathing and seemed to think that he was asleep. She put down her phone, sat on the bed, and looked at Su Weifeng. Through the moonlight outside the window, Su Weifeng could see Sun Yumeng's delicate little face with a sweet smile, and her eyes were indescribably gentle. Sun Yumeng just looked at him for more than 10 minutes, which made Su Weifeng feel quite uncomfortable. If he let her watch like this, he felt that he couldn't pretend anymore, so he had to pretend to turn over and face inside. Sun Yumeng was so scared that she quickly turned her head away and found that Su Weifeng just turned over and there was no movement. She breathed a sigh of relief and patted her chest gently. Picking up the phone again, Sun Yumeng began to work seriously this time. After almost 2 hours, Sun Yumeng finally put down the phone. Another brand new script was finished, and she felt indescribably happy. Finished? Su Weifeng's voice suddenly sounded. Sun Yumeng was so frightened that she almost cried out. She quickly reached out to cover her mouth, then apologized and said, "Mr. Su, did I disturb you and make you sleep poorly?" Su Weifeng smiled slightly and said, "No, I took a nap and woke up now." Sun Yumeng breathed a sigh of relief and smiled again, saying, "I thought I woke you up. It's only 12 o'clock now. You can go back to sleep." Su Weifeng said, "You should go to sleep too." Okay, I'll go to sleep right away." Sun Yumeng was about to sit on the chair. "Go to bed." "Ah." Sun Yumeng's body froze for a moment. Su Weifeng said softly, "How can you sleep on a chair? If you are not afraid of what I will do to you, just go to bed." I'm not afraid, I'm just afraid. If you are not afraid of me, then don't think about anything else. Sun Yumeng bit her lip, but still shook her head and said, "Mr. Su, I believe you, but if I sleep in the same bed with you, even if we do nothing, but if this matter gets out, and Ms. Lin knows about it, she will misunderstand. You and Mr. Lin have been very kind to me, and I can't do anything that will affect you." Su Weifeng was even more moved. Sun Yumeng was really a sensible girl. His voice was also softer, and he said, "It's okay, as long as we are upright, there is no need to be afraid. Listen to me, go to bed. If I'll let you sleep on a chair, am I still a man?" Sun Yumeng bit her lip and finally nodded gently. Chapter 283 Still underestimated. Sun Yumeng got on the bed carefully, just lying on the side, even half of her body was hanging in the air. Su Weifeng chuckled and said, "Are you afraid of me?" Are you afraid that I, the boss, will take advantage of you? No, no. Sun Yumeng said, and moved inside again. That's right, I'll cover you with a blanket, and go to sleep now. Sun Yumeng was very nervous. She was really in a complicated mood now. If Su Weifeng really wanted to do something to her, she didn't know what to do. She definitely didn't want to refuse in her heart. If it weren't for Su Weifeng, she wouldn't have her current life. Her current life would be in dire straits. Even if she used her body to repay Su Weifeng, she didn't have any complaints in her heart, and even had an unspeakable expectation. But if that were the case, she wouldn't be able to face Lin Zhuangxun. Lin Zhuangxun was also very good to her. This kind of kindness also required her to repay it for the rest of her life. How could she do something to let Lin Zhuangxun down? But after a long time, Su Weifeng did not touch her, and then she could hear Su Weifeng's long breathing, and even a slight snoring. She actually fell asleep. Sun Yumeng suddenly felt disappointed, but it soon turned into a strong gratitude and admiration. She knew very well that, even if she was not as beautiful as Lin Zhuangxun, she was not much worse, especially in such an environment. For a man, it was definitely meat delivered to his mouth. But Su Weifeng really did not touch her. This is a real man who is not tempted by women. Turning over carefully and secretly looking at Su Weifeng's face, Sun Yumeng's smile was so bright that it could not be described. Until closing her eyes and slowly falling asleep, Sun Yumeng also had a sweet sleeping appearance, which was really indescribably beautiful. The next morning, Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng both woke up early, and there was nothing that crossed the line between the two. Even in their dreams, they both had a subconscious mind to not do things they shouldn't do. It was indeed a kind of respect for each other. After a night's rest, Su Weifeng's body has recovered a lot, and he got out of bed directly. Sun Yumeng was a little worried at first, but she was relieved when she saw that Su Weifeng seemed to be normal. After a night's rest, the old man was in a better condition today. In the morning, he ate 2 bowls of porridge and a big steamed bun. The old man said happily, haha, I haven't eaten so much for a long time, and I don't feel too full. Su Weifeng said, it seems that the effect is better than I thought. The old man's foundation is still pretty good. The old man said proudly, I also did hard labor when I was young, so this body foundation is still pretty good. After dinner, the old man said, Su Xiaoyao, I have another unwelcome request. I don't know if you can agree to it. It depends on what it is. Su Weifeng replied with a smile. It's like this. This time I want to train our ZHU family's soldiers. Although we have made some preparations for sacrifices, I'm too old to bear the sight of a loved one sending off a loved one. You should be more familiar with mercenaries. Can you give us some information so that we can be prepared? Su Weifeng hesitated for a moment and said, this is not a big problem. I'll get you some materials and tell you some of the methods they are good at. As for who is among their mercenaries and what they are good at, I won't help you investigate. The old man clapped his hands and said excitedly, this is enough. What we lack most now is that we have no understanding of mercenaries. Okay, I'll pass it to Xiaoxuan tomorrow. Okay, you've helped me a lot again. I don't know how to thank you. Money is too vulgar, and you definitely have it. I can also see that you have status and position, and you are even more disdainful of it, so I can only give you a promise. As long as you, Su Xiaoyao, speak, our ZHU family will do our best to support you. Su Weifeng laughed and said, ha, to get such a promise from the ZHU family is already a great reward. The old man chuckled, then shook his head and said, for others, this may be a great reward, but I know that for you, this is just a trivial matter. If you need it, the energy of our ZHU family is not enough. Old man, you overestimate me. Su Weifeng smiled slightly and said, I have to go back to class, let's say goodbye here. This time just an ordinary driver sent Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng away. ZHU Jianben walked out of the house at this time and said, Grandpa, do you think so highly of him? The old man patted ZHU Jianben on the shoulder and said, Jianben, I'm not wrong about people. His energy is beyond your imagination. If possible, you should make friends with him. If you really become his friend, you will know that this is the most correct thing you have done in your life. ZHU Jianben grinned and said, I'm afraid this is a bit difficult. I feel that we are not the same kind of people. The old man sighed and said, that's right. Your personalities determine that it is difficult for you to become true friends. Then you must respect him in the future. Even if you become a younger brother, you will have endless blessings in the future. Okay. ZHU Jianbin agreed readily this time. He admired his grandfather very much, and seeing the changes in his grandfather today, he also trusted Su Weifeng more and more. Grandpa, I can't do it, but I feel my sister should be able to. She has a good relationship with Su Weifeng. Wouldn't it be better if we could recruit him as the son-in-law of our ZHU family? The old man rolled his eyes at ZHU Jianbin and said, do you think I haven't thought about this idea? Your sister won't refuse, but Su Xiaoyao won't agree to it, and your idea is still problematic. How can he marry into our ZHU family? If your sister can be with him, she can only enter their Su family. It is enough for our ZHU family to have this relationship. ZHU Jianbin couldn't help but be secretly shocked. He had already thought highly of Su Weifeng, but now he realized that he still didn't think highly enough. Grandpa, are you worried about the little girl following Su Weifeng? I think she looks good, but she's just an ordinary person, far inferior to my sister. If my sister takes the initiative, I don't believe she can't get him. The old man glared and said, don't have such crooked thoughts. I hope Xiaoxuan can be with him, but our ZHU family doesn't bother to use such means to win over someone. No matter when, I support you, the children of the ZHU family, in finding your other half. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284. Are you qualified? During the break in the morning class, the monitor stood up and issued a notice. Classmates, we will attend a cocktail party at 5 o'clock tonight. This cocktail party is of high standard and many heavyweights will attend. We are fortunate to be invited to this training class, so I hope everyone will not miss this good opportunity and go to attend. Okay. Everyone responded. The monitor is the most senior in the class. He said that there are heavyweights attending, so they will naturally go to attend. This is a rare opportunity to meet those big shots. Wu Kuan'Yao snorted at this time and said, I'm a little worried. Most of the people in our class can go to the cocktail party, but some country bumpkins have never seen the world. If they do something embarrassing there, it will not only embarrass themselves, but also embarrass all of us. Everyone's eyes were cast on Su Weifeng at once. Su Weifeng stood up and walked out directly, as if he didn't hear it. Sun Yumeng followed closely behind Su Weifeng. Wu Kuan'Yao snorted coldly and said, HMPH, you are quite self-aware. It's just right that he doesn't go, so as not to embarrass our class. Zheng Yulang stood up suddenly and shouted angrily, Wu Kuan'Yao, shut your stinky mouth. It's not your decision whether Su Weifeng goes or not. Xian Fei also stood up suddenly and said, did you, Wu Kuan'Yao, host the cocktail party? If it was hosted by you, then I wouldn't go either. Since it wasn't hosted by you, what qualifications do you have to stop Su Weifeng from going? Wu Kuan'Yao's face suddenly turned pale, and he said angrily, do you two have to go against me? Zhao Mingyang said disdainfully, what's wrong with going against you? We are talking about reason. We are all classmates. You look down on this and that here. Who the hell do you think you are? Say it again. Have you the guts? Wu Kuan'Yao slammed the table and glared at Zhao Mingyang. The monitor's face darkened at this time, and he said, what are you arguing about? Whether you go or not, it's all voluntary. Wu Kuan'Yao's face became even uglier. The monitor's status was higher than his, and he couldn't afford to offend him. After the monitor spoke, he couldn't continue to make trouble. But this matter really embarrassed him. Obviously, everyone was dissatisfied with him for jumping out. Even if many people also looked down on Su Weifeng, Wu Kuan'Yao's reaction was obviously too tasteless. How could they know that Wu Kuan'Yao was slapped by Su Weifeng and hated Su Weifeng to the core? So how could he be as calm as them? That Wu Kuan'Yao is really too much. After leaving the classroom, Sun Yumeng couldn't help but mutter angrily. Su Weifeng chuckled and said, just treat him as a dog. No matter how much he barks, we don't have to pay attention to him. Sun Yumeng pouted and said, but it still makes me uncomfortable. He looks down on people. If you look down on people, then look down on them. The more some people look down on people, the easier it is to get slapped in the face. Su Weifeng's cell phone rang at this time. He saw that the number was an unfamiliar number, but he still answered it. Brother Su, this is Jianbin. Jianbin, what do you want to talk to me about? Su Jianbin listened to Su Weifeng's indifferent voice and couldn't help but mutter in his heart. This Su Weifeng is really generous. The young master of the ZHU family took the initiative to call, but he was so calm. If it were someone else, I'm afraid his voice would tremble with excitement. But then he thought about it. In front of his grandfather, Su Weifeng always had a calm expression and didn't take his grandfather seriously at all. What kind of pretense could he put on in front of Su Weifeng? After adjusting his mindset, ZHU Jianbin immediately said with a smile, there's a cocktail party tonight. It's quite lively. Can Brother Su come and join us? Su Weifeng frowned and said, a cocktail party is too noisy, isn't it? No, we are all young people. Just have a drink and chat, and do some entertainment. Brother Su's training class is quite boring, so come out and relax. Su Weifeng looked at Sun Yumeng and said, okay, then I'll take Yumeng there in the evening. That's great. At 5 o'clock, on the 3rd floor of the Marriott Hotel, I will go to the training class early to pick up Brother Su. You must have a lot of things to do, so there's no need to pick me up specially. Besides, I'd feel uncomfortable if other people saw me. I'll just go by myself. ZHU Jianbin smiled and said, I understand. Brother Su wants to keep a low profile, so I won't go. Seeing Su Weifeng hang up the phone, Sun Yumeng blinked and said, should we still go to the cocktail party? Su Weifeng smiled and said, I'll take you to see it, so that you can have more topics to write scripts in the future. Yeah. Sun Yumeng nodded repeatedly, still somewhat excited. She didn't yearn for this kind of rich life. The most important thing was that it broadened her horizons. When she wrote the script again, she didn't have to rely on her imagination to write about the lives of those rich people, and she would write more realistically. Marriott Hotel is the largest 5-star hotel in the province. In addition to food and accommodation, it is an excellent place to hold a large cocktail party. At around 4 o'clock, luxury cars parked in the parking lot of Marriott Hotel. Mercedes-Benz and BMW all look rubbish here. Luxury cars worth millions are not eye-catching here, and luxury cars worth tens of millions are everywhere here. Those who came to this cocktail party today are basically the most powerful young people in the province. When successful people of older age hold a cocktail party, they mostly see if there are better opportunities for cooperation. Young people are more likely to consider building a good emotional foundation with their peers. The future is this. If they build a good relationship now, they can cooperate more happily in the future. Wu Kuan-ai and several of his companions dressed up very nicely, parked the car, and just walked to the entrance of the hotel. Then they saw a taxi parked at the entrance of the hotel. Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng got out of the taxi. Wu Kuan-ai and several others immediately stopped Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng. Wu Kuan-ai curled his lips and said, "You are really good. You just took a taxi. You didn't say you rented a car, but you should at least take a special car. You just took a taxi. Aren't you ashamed? Yeah, and you are dressed casually. This is a high-end cocktail party. Can't you buy 2 good clothes to wear? Come on, a good set of clothes will cost hundreds of thousands. With their strength, how can they afford it?" The people around Wu Kuan-ai also laughed. Su Weifeng looked at Wu Kuan-ai, raised his eyebrows, and said, "If you don't want to be beaten, get out of here." Chapter 285, Free Food and Drink. You dare to be so fierce here? I haven't settled the score with you last time. Wu Kuan-ai was immediately furious, glaring at Su Weifeng with gritted teeth. Go away or not? Su Weifeng burst out with momentum and took a step forward. Wu Kuan-ai and others suddenly felt a strong sense of danger and instinctively dodged to both sides. When they came to their senses, Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng had already walked into the door. This bastard. Wu Kuan-ai clenched his fists in anger. It was also a very embarrassing thing that he was scared by Su Weifeng and moved away. The other people also came to their senses at this time. Wow, this kid dared to be so fierce today. He is really brave. That's right. He was so cowardly in the training class, and now he is showing off. He is really looking for death. Wu Kuan-ai muttered in his heart, this guy was not cowardly in the training class, otherwise he would not have slapped him at the door. He gritted his teeth and said, let's go in and deal with him. If we can't deal with him, we don't have to stay here anymore. When they went in, they couldn't find Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng. If they really saw where Su Weifeng went, they would definitely not dare to trouble Su Weifeng next time, but they didn't see him, which led to their subsequent misery. Zhu Jianben had been waiting here for a long time. When he saw Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng come in, he immediately came to greet them. Without much greeting, he directly welcomed the two to a reception room next to them. Brother Su, thank you for giving me face. I was really afraid that you wouldn't come. Zhu Jianben personally poured tea for Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng. Su Weifeng took it with a smile and then said to Sun Yumeng, Yumeng, it's an honor to be able to drink the tea poured by young master Zhu himself. Zhu Jianben was also very pleased to hear this. He didn't take it seriously at all when others said this, and he would not easily pour tea for others. But this was Su Weifeng, so the meaning was different. It showed that Su Weifeng was very familiar with him and was joking with him. He immediately laughed and said, Brother Su, you are joking. It is my honor to let me pour tea for you. Su Weifeng said with a smile, Yumeng, this is really not a joke. The Zhu family has a special status here, and Jianben's status is also very high. Not everyone can pour tea for such a young master. Sun Yumeng stuck out her tongue and said, thank you, young master Zhu. Although Su Weifeng explained, Sun Yumeng still didn't feel that honor. It seemed that, after staying with Su Weifeng for a long time, she could face people of any status calmly. Zhu Jianben immediately said, Yumeng, you are too polite to me. I have to call you sister-in-law. You can just call me Jianben. Sun Yumeng's face turned red. She glanced at Su Weifeng, not knowing how to answer. Su Weifeng was too lazy to explain and said, okay, you don't have to worry about me. I just brought Yumeng here to see what we are like. If you follow us, others will look at us like monsters. Okay, then if there is anything, Brother Su, call me at any time and I will be there immediately. Zhu Jianben always thought that Su Weifeng just wanted to keep a low profile and didn't want others to know too much about his relationship with the Zhu family, so he didn't say much at this time and left first. Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng walked in, and Wu Kuan-ai and the others had disappeared. Then Zheng Yulang and Zhao Mingyang just walked in. Zheng Yulang rushed forward and said, Brother Su, why didn't you wait for us? We have been looking for you for a long time. Su Weifeng smiled and said, Yumeng and I have something else to do, so we will come out for a while. Zhao Mingyang immediately said, then let's go up together now. The four of them had just taken 2 steps when Xianfei quickly caught up with them. When she looked at Su Weifeng, she subconsciously took another step back. Su Weifeng glanced at Xianfei and said lightly, it's almost enough. Xianfei was stunned for a moment. What did this mean? Did he mean that she was a little annoying to pester Su Weifeng? So let her be almost enough. Or did she mean that her performance had satisfied Su Weifeng, so it was almost enough? This made Xianfei not know what to do. She wanted to follow Su Weifeng, but she didn't dare to follow him. Zhao Mingyang gave a thumbs up and said, Brother Su, you are really domineering. Although Xianfei is not a very powerful person, you scared her like that with just a look and a word. Zheng Yulang nodded repeatedly and said, yes, that woman is entangled with many powerful people. Ordinary people really look down on her. The 4 people took the elevator to the 3rd floor. When they arrived at the door of the hall, several security guards stopped them. Please show us your invitations. Zheng Yulang and Zhao Mingyang immediately took out the invitations. Sun Yumeng looked at Su Weifeng and said, we don't have an invitation. Zheng Yulang said puzzledly, why don't you have an invitation? It was issued by the class. Zhao Mingyang's face suddenly became ugly and said, it must be that the guys didn't give it to you on purpose. We were vague at the time and didn't ask for it from you. Wu Kuan-ai and his men appeared again at this time. They had been waiting at the door, looking at Su Weifeng with a smile, and then started the mocking mode again. What's the matter? Don't you have an invitation? You can't come in without an invitation. Not just anyone can come in. Yes, it's impossible to come here to eat and drink for free without an invitation. Su Weifeng's face darkened. These people are getting more and more outrageous. If he doesn't find an opportunity to teach them a lesson today, they will really become more and more arrogant. Glancing at Wu Kuan'Ao, Su Weifeng said lightly, I feel that there are some people who want to eat and drink for free. Wu Kuan'Ao sneered, bah, can we eat and drink for free like you? What are our identities and your identities? Do you have an invitation? We do have an invitation. Really? Su Weifeng smiled lightly, then raised his hand, holding 2 invitations in his hand, and handed them directly to the security guard at the door. Huh? Where did you get the invitation? Wu Kuan'Ao's eyes widened and he said, this is impossible. I didn't give it to you. Zheng Yulan and Zhao Mingyang immediately glared at Wu Kuan'Ao fiercely. This guy was undoubtedly confessing. Please come in, both of you. The security guard checked the invitation and then respectfully gestured for the 2 to go in. Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng walked in and looked back at Wu Kuan'Ao. Wu Kuan'Ao suddenly felt a little scared. Just as he was about to take out the invitation, he suddenly found that the invitation was gone. You stole my invitation. Wu Kuan'Ao immediately stared at Su Weifeng with gritted teeth, like a wolf that was ready to bite anyone it wanted. Chapter 286 You are just a dog. Su Weifeng sneered and said, I stole your invitation? How can I prove that this invitation is yours? Wu Kuan'Ao was speechless. These invitations are anonymous. Who dares to eat and drink for free in such an occasion? That would be courting death. Su Weifeng's face darkened and he said, you are accusing me of stealing your invitation. Shouldn't you give me an explanation? Wu Kuan'Ao glared and said, I'm not going to give you an explanation. I just said you stole it, so what? Haha, if you insist on being so tough, then I can't do anything about it. Some people just like to bully others by taking advantage of their power. Wu Kuan'Ao showed his vicious side and said, what's wrong with me bullying you? You country bumpkin, what qualifications do you have to discuss this with me? Su Weifeng shook his head and said with disdain, if you have the ability, then just use it. Up to now, apart from seeing you barking like a dog, I don't even dare to bite anyone. Zheng Yulan laughed and said, Brother Su, this metaphor is very appropriate. You really know how to show off your power, just like a dog, the kind of dog that can only bark but not bite. Zhao Mingyang said, yes, he is just like that. Do you still expect him to bite people? Then I'll bite you to see. Wu Kuan'Ao's eyes were murderous, and when he said this, it was squeezed out from between his teeth. Ha. Zhao Mingyang and Zheng Yulan laughed in unison, pointing at Wu Kuan'Ao and said, look, you admit that you are a dog. Then, with laughter, they followed Su Weifeng into the hall. At this time, there were still many people at the door, and they couldn't help laughing. Wu Kuan'Ao's body was shaking with anger. He was accidentally tricked just now. In the public eye, this embarrassment was even greater. You guys just wait. If I, Wu Kuan'Ao, don't take care of you, I will not be a human being. At this time, Zheng Yulan waved his fist and said, it's great seeing Wu Kuan'Ao, that bastard, get beaten up today. I'm so happy. Zhao Mingyang said, that's right. I have been bullied by this guy for the past 2 years. Although he only took advantage of me verbally, I'm so happy today. Sun Yumeng said curiously, Brother Su, when did you steal their invitations? Why didn't I find out? Zheng Yulan and Zhao Mingyang also looked at Su Weifeng curiously. They just watched him coming and didn't see Su Weifeng take action at all. Su Weifeng straightened his face and said, what do you mean I stole their invitations? They didn't bring them, okay? Oh. That's right, they didn't bring any at all. They just came here to eat and drink for free. Zheng Yulan and Zhao Mingyang didn't ask any more questions and smiled and followed Su Weifeng's words. The hall was really huge. Even though there were already more than 100 people, it still seemed particularly empty. Everyone gathered together, chatting and eating. Sun Yumeng started looking around when she came in. This was her first time in such an occasion. Su Weifeng smiled and said, let's go get something to eat. On one side of the hall, There was a long food table with a wide variety of food, and many of them were high-end, such as all kinds of high-end seafood. How much does this cost? Sun Yumeng looked at the food and this thought first ran through her mind. Su Weifeng chuckled and said, anyway, we don't have to spend money. We can eat whatever we want, and as much as we want. We don't have to pay attention to other people's eyes. Sun Yumeng nodded repeatedly. She was indeed embarrassed at first, but when Su Weifeng said this, she immediately let go. However, she had never seen many of the things here before, and for a moment, she didn't know what to take. Su Weifeng immediately guessed Sun Yumeng's situation, and whispered in her ear, let's not pick the same thing twice. We can try each other's food. If it tastes good, we'll take it. If it doesn't taste good, forget it. Okay. Sun Yumeng nodded repeatedly, and let go to pick up things from the plate. While picking up things, Su Weifeng said, there are a lot of things here. Even if you see something you like, you don't have to take too much. There may be some more delicious ones. By then, you will be full, and can't eat anymore. Sun Yumeng nodded again and again. In the past, even if she had a buffet, it was an extremely luxurious thing. Moreover, the things in that kind of ordinary buffet were not as many as now, and the food was completely incomparable to now. Sun Yumeng whispered at this time, Boss Su, you don't have to take special care of me, otherwise I will be laughed at by others again. What's so funny about this? We haven't eaten dinner yet. There is delicious food, why don't we eat it? I despise those who are obviously very hungry, but have to pretend to be polite and only eat a little bit, wasting food. That is the most shameful thing. Zhao Mingyang and Zheng Yulang glanced at Su Weifeng and the others. Zheng Yulang poked Zhao Mingyang and said, Brother Su is really caring, and has no airs at all. Zhao Mingyang said in agreement, this is a big shot. No matter what you do, just follow your heart, and don't care about what others think of you. We are still far from that. We still have to learn from Brother Su. Zheng Yulang also nodded repeatedly. The more the two of them came into contact with Su Weifeng, the more they felt the gap between them and Su Weifeng. They found a secluded place, the four of them sat together, and started eating. Come on, try this, it tastes very good. Su Weifeng picked up something, and passed it to Sun Yumeng. This is also delicious, you should try it too. Sun Yumeng also picked one up for Su Weifeng. The two of them ate happily. Sun Yumeng was shy to give Su Weifeng food at first, but later she became more casual. Try this, it's really delicious. Sun Yumeng sent the half-eaten food to Su Weifeng, but before she could put it on Su Weifeng's plate, Su Weifeng actually lowered his head and put the food into his mouth. While chewing, he said vaguely, not bad, it's really delicious. Sun Yumeng was stunned for a moment, and her face suddenly turned red. She had eaten half of that thing just now, but she actually gave it to Su Weifeng. The most important thing was that Su Weifeng actually ate it directly, and even his mouth touched her chopsticks. After secretly glancing at Su Weifeng, and finding that he was not doing anything, Sun Yumeng secretly put the chopsticks into her mouth, and nibbled it gently, and then quickly took it out, like a thief. Dog abuse. Zheng Yulang muttered, making Sun Yumeng's expression freeze. Zheng Yulang coughed lightly and said, I didn't see anything, and I didn't say anything. Sun Yumeng was so embarrassed that she almost crawled under the table. Then she secretly glared at Zheng Yulang, you annoying guy, what are you looking at for no reason? Chapter 287 Let's bet. Although Wu Kuan'Yao didn't have the invitation, it was still easy for him to enter the hall with his status. He looked around and soon saw Su Weifeng and the others. Just as he was about to rush over, someone stopped him. Mr. Wu, we haven't played together for a long time. What have you been busy with these days? This was a friend of Wu Kuan'Yao who always hung out with him, and he was also a descendant of a big family, Mi Shianan from the Mi family. Wu Kuan'Yao stopped and said, Master Mi, I'm just studying. Ha, do you, Master Wu, need to study? Hey, why do you look so strange? Who offended you? Wu Kuan'Yao snorted and said, I'm really embarrassed this time. I was humiliated by a bastard. Oh my god, what kind of bastard is so bold that he dares to provoke Master Wu? Isn't this courting death? Wu Kuan'Yao gritted his teeth and said, he's from a small film and television company in Yangcheng. He really pissed me off. He just stole my invitation and sneaked in. Master Mi laughed and said, PFFT, there are still such bold people. Let's go and find trouble with him. Wu Kuanao's mind became sharper at this time. In this situation, it was impossible for him to conflict with Su Weifeng, but he could use other ways to deal with Su Weifeng. Holding Mi Xiaonan, Wu Kuanao said, I thought we should deal with him, and we should deal with him civilly. You are good at playing cards, so you can find 2 people to play cards with him, and then we can set a trap and beat him to death. Mi Xiaonan's eyes lit up and said, this is a good idea, we can beat him to death. Wu Kuanao said, but this guy is very patient, I'm afraid he won't fall into the trap. Mi Xiaonan patted his chest and said, it's okay, we will find 2 people to provoke him later. Men don't have bad face, so why are you afraid that he won't fall into the trap? Wu Kuanao also smiled and said, okay, then I'll leave this matter to you. After you get rid of this anger, I'll take you to have a good time later. Mi Xiaonan immediately found a few friends and walked straight to the table where Su Weifeng and his friends were. Hey, what a beautiful girl. A guy next to Mi Xiaonan looked at Sun Yumeng and said with a lecherous look. The other one waited for Sun Yumeng to raise her head and immediately said frivolously, sister, come and play with us brothers. Zhao Mingyang and Zheng Yulang were about to get angry. They knew Mi Xiaonan and knew that the Mi family was more powerful than their 2 families, but in this situation, they were bullied and naturally could not be weak. Su Weifeng stopped them with a look and then said lazily, okay, you don't have to do this to me here. Wu Kuanao has that guy, why do you come here? Mi Xiaonan and others were immediately froze. It was really embarrassing to be exposed directly. The preparations they made were useless. Mi Xiaonan snorted and said, boy, we guys are quite bored. Do you dare to gamble? Su Weifeng immediately said, you just want to win my money? That's easy. Come on. Zheng Yulang was immediately startled and said quickly, that won't work. Mi Xiaonan is a famous con man. No one in our circle wants to play with him. Mi Xiaonan glared at Zheng Yulang, raised his eyebrows and said, what's the matter? Are you scared? Su Weifeng narrowed his eyes and said, your last name is Mi too? Mi Xiaonan glared at Su Weifeng again and said, nonsense, I'm Mi Xiaonan from the Mi family, what's wrong with that? Su Weifeng nodded and said, oh, then you should be very rich. Besides, if you lose money, that kid Wu Kuanao will have to pay for it with you, right? I will lose? Are you kidding? Mi Xiaonan sneered. Su Weifeng smiled and said, okay, come on, let's play it simple and rough. Each of us will reveal a card and compare the size directly. Are you sure? Mi Xiaonan narrowed his eyes. This way of playing is too simple. For someone who knows a little bit about gambling, the simpler the way of playing, the easier it is to succeed. If the way of playing is too complicated, it will require higher skills. At least he is not sure about things that are too complicated. Now for him, this way of playing, with some tricks, he is extremely sure. Yeah. Su Weifeng nodded. Then how do we calculate the bet? Mi Xiaonan asked again. Su Weifeng looked at the people around Mi Xiaonan and said, it's very simple. We will play 10 games in total. Anyone who wants to join can participate. Then only one person will win each game, and each person's bet is 1 million. What do you think? Mi Xiaonan smiled and said, okay, since you have such courage, I will satisfy you. 1 million for one game. 10 games is 10 million. Even if he is conservative, he can win 6 million if he wins 8 games. For a small company, 6 million is enough to kill him. Su Weifeng laughed and said, come on, I don't have so much time to play with you. Playing cards here is a very common thing, so after a greeting, a waiter will be sent over immediately. Su Weifeng said, come on, a few of you. I think this is quite interesting. I will come too. Yes, let's play too. Maybe we can get some money for drinks. The people brought by Mi Xiaonan participated one after another. One reason was that they had confidence in Mi Xiaonan, and the other was that the more people they participated, the greater the chance of winning. There were 4 people coming with Mi Xiaonan, so there were 5 in total. Zheng Yulang and Zhao Mingyang also saw this, and immediately said in unison, then we will also join. This way, they would at least have a 3 to 5 ratio in terms of numbers, and the chances would be improved, which was better than Su Weifeng joining alone. Mi Xiaonan laughed and said, "You are good." Su Weifeng did not stop him and said lightly, "But for shuffling the cards, I think neither you nor I are suitable. Just find someone else." Mi Xiaonan narrowed his eyes and said, "You are quite smart. Just choose someone, otherwise you will be accused of bullying you." Su Weifeng pointed to Wu Kuan'Ao who wanted to come over, but was afraid of suspicion and said, "Let's pick this idiot. Let you lose with a clear conscience." Puff. You have guts. Mi Xiaonan gave Su Weifeng a thumbs up. It was obvious that Wu Kuan'Ao wanted to mess with Su Weifeng. Now Su Weifeng asked Wu Kuan'Ao to deal the cards. It was indeed not something that ordinary people could do. Wu Kuan'Ao was a little confused about this arrangement. Is this Su Weifeng a fool or a fool? He knew that he was the one who was playing tricks, but he still wanted him to shuffle the cards. Wasn't he afraid that he would collude with Mi Xiaonan? Su Weifeng waved his hand impatiently and said to Wu Kuan'Ao, "Hey, that dog that doesn't bite, shuffle the cards quickly." Chapter 288, Lose first as a respect. Wu Kuan'Ao almost cursed, but in this situation, he needed to maintain his self-cultivation. There were too many people who were more powerful than the young master of the Wu family. If he cursed, he might be asked to leave, which would be a real disgrace to the Wu family. "Boy, I'll let you have a moment of verbal pleasure, but you'll cry later." After grappling with gritted teeth, Wu Kuan'Ao began to shuffle the cards. He was also a frequent card player, and his shuffling skills seemed to be very good. Mi Xiaonan kept his eyes on Wu Kuan'Ao shuffling the cards. He had a preference for gambling. He had aspired to become a gambling god before, and remembering cards was something he had practiced for a long time. When others were shuffling the cards, he would stare at a few cards, and he should be able to basically determine where they were. That's why he had enough confidence to gamble with Su Weifeng. After Wu Kuan'Ao shuffled the cards, he spread them on the table and said, "Let's start choosing cards." Mi Xiaonan smiled and said, "Come on, choose first, or you will say I'm bullying you." Su Weifeng chuckled and said, "I have always been very lucky. If I choose, you will not have the chance to choose again. Stop bragging and start." Wu Kuan'Ao said impatiently. Su Weifeng shook his head and said, "There are always those idiots who like to be self-righteous." While speaking, Su Weifeng picked out a card at random and threw it face up on the table. Ace of Spades. Zheng Yulang and Zhao Mingyang shouted excitedly. In this game, 2 jokers must be taken out. Among all the cards, the Ace of Spades is the largest. Su Weifeng picked this card, which means that Su Weifeng has won, and there is no need for others to choose cards. Mi Xiaonan was stunned for a moment. He had just stared at the Ace of Spades, but he didn't expect Su Weifeng to pick it out directly. Su Weifeng smiled and said to Wu Kuan'Ao, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 500 for the 5 of you. Remember it clearly. There were 5 people participating on their side. After this round, Su Weifeng won 5 million, which was a bit painful. Wu Kuan'Ao was a little embarrassed. In this way, even if Su Weifeng lost all the remaining cards, he would not lose too much. Looking at Mi Xiaonan's face was calm, and he still looked confident. Only then did he feel a little relieved. After shuffling the cards again, Mi Xiaonan said, "It's my turn to choose first this time." Su Weifeng shrugged his shoulders and said, "Of course, we have to take turns. The first one to choose in the last round will be the last one to choose in the next round." Mi Xiaonan also picked a card from the inside in a pretentious manner, and then drew it directly. It turned out to be an Ace of Spades. Mi Xiaonan immediately smiled triumphantly and said, "You 3 have lost 300, and there are still 200 left." Wu Kuan'Ao breathed a sigh of relief and secretly gave Mi Xiaonan a thumbs up. Next, Su Weifeng said lightly. In the third hand, Zheng Yulang started to draw first, and then the others drew. After the 6 of them drew, the biggest one was the opponent's Red Heart King. Then it was Su Weifeng's turn again. Su Weifeng picked a card directly from the draw, and it turned out to be another Spade Ace. Haha. Zheng Yulang and Zhao Mingyang laughed triumphantly again. Mi Xiaonan and others were a little embarrassed. In the fourth hand, Su Weifeng was the third to last, and he picked the Spade Ace again. After 4 hands, Su Weifeng and his team had won 12 million. Wu Kuan'Ao's face turned green. Mi Xianan's face was also a little ugly. He just found a problem at this time. According to this rule, he was always behind Su Weifeng. As long as Su Weifeng made a move, he would draw the ace of spades, and then he would have no chance to make a move. Mi Xianan said in a deep voice, "This won't work." "Oh, no, then what do you say?" Su Weifeng asked with a smile. Mi Xianan said, "I can see that you are a master, so there is no need for them to participate. I will bet with you one-on-one." Su Weifeng looked at Mi Xianan with a playful look, and then looked at Wu Kuan'Ao, and said, "Okay, then one-on-one. There are exactly 6 cards, and we can each play one first." Mi Xianan said, "This won't work either. You have already taken advantage of me 3 times, and I'm at a disadvantage." Su Weifeng narrowed his eyes and said, "You are really not stupid. Since you said so, then you will play all 6 first." "No." Zhao Mingyang and Zheng Yulan cried out. Mi Xianan is also very powerful. If Mi Xianan goes first every time, won't he lose 6 times in a row? Su Weifeng smiled faintly and said, "No problem." Mi Xianan sneered and said, "Since you said so, I won't be polite. Kuan'Ao, shuffle the cards." Wu Kuan'Ao said sinisterly, "You are one-on-one, 1 million per hand. The bet is small, isn't it?" Mi Xianan realized this, and nodded in agreement, saying, "Yes, it is indeed a bit small." Unexpectedly, Su Weifeng also nodded repeatedly and said, "You are right." Several people in Wu Quan's face turned black immediately. Wu Kuan'Ao still showed his shameless spirit and said, "Then 5 million per hand." 500. Su Weifeng hesitated for a moment and said, "It's still a bit small, 10 million per hand." Boom. A lot of people had already gathered here. They thought Su Weifeng would lower the bet, but they didn't expect him to increase the bet. Suddenly, they all widened their eyes in surprise. It felt like Su Weifeng was going crazy. He had won so much now, and he should have stopped. But now he even raised the stakes. Did he have too much money to spend? Or did he not take Mi Xianan seriously at all? But no one thought that Su Weifeng was right. "Brother Su, this is not appropriate, right?" Zheng Yulan reminded him worriedly. Zhao Mingyang also whispered, "It's hard to win like this." "What? You don't dare?" Su Weifeng ignored them, but raised his eyebrows provocatively, and said to Wu Kuan'Ao and the others. Wu Kuan'Ao actually looked at Mi Xianan with a guilty conscience at this time. Mi Xianan had the chance to choose the cards first, so he was sure to win. He sneered and said, "Since you have the courage, we have to accompany you." Wu Kuan'Ao was full of confidence and said sarcastically, "If I don't agree to you, wouldn't it mean that you, a country bumpkin, will be defeated? Then, 10 million per hand." Su Weifeng shrugged and said, "Then let's start." Wu Kuan'Ao laughed and said, "Then let's start." He started to shuffle the cards, secretly calculating in his heart 10 million per hand. 6 hands is 60 million, minus the 12 million lost, there will be 48 million left. Even if Mi Xianan loses once, he can still win 28 million. 28 million. He doesn't believe it. A small film and television company owner in Yangcheng can take out such a large sum of money. Thinking about the situation, that Su Weifeng can't give it, he feels indescribably happy. Chapter 289. All our waiters. This guy is a bit stupid. Mi Xianan's level is there. If Mi Xianan draws first, then he will definitely pick the ace of spades every time. Then he will lose 6 games in a row. Is he giving money away for free? Is he trying to curry favor with the Wu and Mi families? No, I just saw Wu Kuan'Ao and him clashed. They both seemed to be very worried. Then what's the situation? Is he playing a losing game? I don't think it's that simple. This guy is obviously a master. He picked the ace of spades every time just now. I think he may have some tricks. What tricks can he have? Mi Xianan has the first move, so he has no chance. Everyone on the side commented one after another, and they were all a little puzzled by Su Weifeng's behavior. Not to mention others, even Sun Yumeng looked at Su Weifeng with resentment at this time. He really couldn't understand why Su Weifeng did this. But compared to others, he still had confidence in Su Weifeng. After all, he had known Su Weifeng for so long, and had never seen Su Weifeng suffer a loss. Wu Kuan'Ao deliberately shuffled the cards very slowly. Anyway, the matter has been made clear. You, Su Weifeng, are just pretending. Then I will beat you to death. Mi Xiaonan looked at the cards on the table. He had already made up his mind. He smiled and said, I'm going to draw a card. You can draw it. Why are you pretending? Su Weifeng curled his lips in disdain. Mi Xiaonan's smile froze for a moment, and then he said angrily, boy, you are really cheap. No wonder Quan Yao wants to deal with you. Then I will make you lose to death today. As he spoke, Mi Xiaonan drew a card from the table and threw it hard on the table. He raised his head without even looking at it and said, first hand. After saying this, in Mi Xiaonan's mind, everyone should shout excitedly, but why are they so quiet? Even Wu Kuan-Yao looked like he had seen a ghost. Puff. Haha. Then someone chuckled first, and then everyone laughed. Mi Xiaonan quickly looked down, and his eyes almost popped out. The card he drew was not the ace of spades, but the two of diamonds. The two of diamonds is the smallest card, which means that Su Weifeng doesn't need to draw a card, and Mi Xiaonan has already lost. This is impossible. Mi Xiaonan glared angrily. Zhao Mingyang immediately sneered and said, this is the card you drew yourself. Everyone is watching. You still want to deny it? Mi Xiaonan's mouth twitched. Of course, in front of so many people, this must be the card he drew. Wu Kuan-Yao lowered his voice and said, Xiaonan, what's going on? Mi Xiaonan said helplessly, it's a mistake. It's okay. It's just one hand. There are still 5 hands. It's not a big deal. You are so unlucky that you can get the worst hand. 22 million. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Mi Xiaonan snorted coldly and said, it's just a mistake, but there won't be a second mistake. Su Weifeng chuckled and said, that's not certain. Some people are just so unlucky. Maybe they'll get it again the second time. It's enough to dream once. You want to do it a second time. What a joke. Shuffle the cards. Wu Kuan-Yao shuffled the cards again. After shuffling the cards, he didn't put them down directly. It wasn't until Mi Xiaonan nodded slightly that he slowly put the cards down and gently spread them out. PFFT, Wu Kuan-Yao, this guy, is he scared? Haha, he obviously has the upper hand, but he still does this. It's really embarrassing. Not everyone here wants to give Wu Kuan-Yao face. Seeing Wu Kuan-Yao doing these things, some people immediately sneered and mocked him. Wu Kuan-Yao could only pretend not to hear it at this time. Please. Su Weifeng waved his hand and made a gesture of invitation with an indescribable ease. Mi Xiaonan kept his eyes on the cards and slowly pulled one out from them. Are you sure? Su Weifeng asked calmly. Nonsense. Mi Xiaonan glared, then slammed the card on the table. Puff. Haha. A 2, and it was still a 2, and it was still the 2 of diamonds. Everyone laughed this time. Mi Xiaonan, are you betting big or small? Yeah, you must have made a mistake. You specifically picked the smallest card. Amid the laughter, they began to laugh and mock again, without Zhao Mingyang and Zheng Yulang saying anything. Mi Xiaonan and Wu Kuan-Yao's group of people all had black faces. Wu Kuan-Yao grinned and said, Xiaonan, what's going on? I don't know, this shouldn't be. Mi Xiaonan was also confused. He had clearly been staring at the ace of spades, so why didn't he pick it? And it happened to be the smallest 2 of diamonds. Su Weifeng smiled and said, 32 million. There are still 4 hands left. Do you still want to play? Damn, of course I will. I can't make the same mistake 3 times. Mi Xiaonan gritted his teeth and said, Kuan-Yao, this time, you should shuffle the cards carefully. Wu Kuan-Yao immediately understood, and this time he deliberately turned over all the cards, even picking out the ace of spades, and only after Mi Xiaonan saw it, he turned them over and shuffled them again. Hush. The people around him immediately booed. Everyone was just watching the fun. There was no bias towards anyone. Seeing Wu Kuan-Yao and Mi Xiaonan's behavior, it was simply blatant cheating, and they couldn't help but despise them. Zheng Yulang shouted angrily, Wu Kuan-Yao, do you still have any shame? This is already treating your face as an ass. Zhao Mingyang also said hatefully. Su Weifeng laughed and said, let them do whatever they want. Only in this way can they accept the defeat. Everyone looked at Su Weifeng at this time. He was too calm and looked like he was sure of winning. But he still didn't know how he could be confident in this situation. Mi Xiaonan's face flushed red at this time. He wanted Wu Kuan'Yao to reshuffle the cards, but he was really unsure. 2 consecutive draws of Xiao had hit his confidence. He urgently needed a card now to boost his confidence. He carefully drew the cards again. Xiao, Xiao. Zheng Yulan and Zhao Mingyang shouted immediately. Xiao, Xiao. Others also shouted. It was too boring to let Mi Xiaonan draw the ace of spades. If Mi Xiaonan drew the third Xiao, that would be the most interesting thing. Wu Kuan'Yao and Mi Xiaonan were so angry that their faces turned blue. They had never thought that a local rodeo would get everyone's support, and they became the target of public criticism. Chapter 290 Miracle or Luck? Reveal it. What are you waiting for? That's right, hurry up. Are you scared? Mi Xiaonan, if you draw the third diamond, Xiao, then I will really admire you. Haha. Mi Xiaonan pressed the card he drew, and at this time he was a little afraid to reveal it. Everyone's ridicule made Mi Xiaonan finally slowly reveal the card. His movements were really slow, and his heart was as nervous as a drum. Wu Kuan'Yao was more nervous than Mi Xiaonan. If he got it wrong, it would be 10 million. Xiao, Xiao. More people gathered around and shouted again, and the voices were so loud and uniform, just short of drawing a dragon with the left hand and a rainbow with the right hand. Then more people were attracted, and the small table was surrounded by a crowd. It can be said that the people in the whole hall gathered together at this time. The people who came later didn't know what was going on, and then the people in front explained it a little, and then the people who came later also shouted excitedly. You have to know that many of these people have played cards with Mi Xiaonan and let him win. If they can make Mi Xiaonan win once, they will feel a sense of revenge. Sun Yumeng had been nervous and silent at the side, but now she was infected by everyone and started shouting. Mi Xiaonan's hands were shaking, and sweat was pouring down his head. It seemed that this card was worth 1,000 gold. He wanted to open it twice, but finally pressed it down again. Waiter, waiter. The more he did this, the more people participated, the more people shouted, and the stronger everyone's expectations and excitement became. You come to reveal it. Mi Xiaonan turned his head and looked at Wu Kuan'Yao. Wu Kuan'Yao gritted his teeth and finally revealed the card. Yeah. Ha. Waiter. Really waiter. 3 consecutive times. Looking at the square waiter, everyone first screamed in various ways, and then they were all extremely excited. Mi Xiaonan and Wu Kuan'Yao were about to cry at this time. Wu Kuan'Yao was embarrassed because of losing money. Mi Xiaonan was shocked by this situation. He was a master, but he made such a low-level mistake, and 3 times in a row. He had completely lost confidence in his gambling skills. There are 3 more. Come on, come on. I believe you will draw the 2 of diamonds 6 times in a row. Haha, I believe it too. Mi Xiaonan, are you going to create a Guinness World Record? Su Weifeng looked at Wu Kuan'Yao and Mi Xiaonan with a faint smile on his face and said, 42 million. Are you still playing? We have to play. They said 10 times. How can we go back on our word? That's right. A real man. A spit is an ale. Even if you can't pull out the shit, sit back. The people around immediately started to make a noise. They didn't care how much money Wu Kuan'Yao lost. Such a good show. They haven't finished watching it yet. Naturally they don't want it to end. Wu Kuan'Yao's face swelled red and suddenly glared, gritted his teeth and said, you cheated. This shout made everyone quiet down at once. All eyes were focused on Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng shook his head and looked at Wu Kuan'Yao as if he was an idiot. He said, you shuffled the cards. He drew the cards. I didn't even touch the cards. How could I cheat? PFFT. That's right, Wu Kuan'Yao, you're really ridiculous. That's right, if this can be cheated, then I'll take your surname. If you can't afford it, just say you can't afford it. Haha, you're the eldest son of the Wu family, you can't afford it, and you're cheating. I'm embarrassed for you. What's the matter? Are you short of 30 million? If you're really short of money, I'll pay for it for you. I just want to see if Mi Xiaonan can draw 3 more hands of Xiao. Yes, right, it's just short of money. It's just 30 million. We'll pay for it for you. We just want to see if Mi Xiaonan can create this miracle. As soon as Su Weifeng said this, the people around him started to shout. Wu Kuan'Yao was choked speechless. Yes, Su Weifeng didn't even touch the cards. How could this be cheating? Wu Kuan'Yao wanted to quit at this time, but if he backed down at this time, it would be a disgrace to the Wu family. In the future, the entire Wu family would be the object of ridicule. Gritting his teeth, Wu Kuan'Yao glared and said, "Okay, let's do it again. Wu Kuan'Yao, I give you a thumbs up for your courage. Ha, I told you that the eldest son of the Wu family would not lose more than 30 million. Wu Kuan'Yao's mouth twitched. If he lost these 3 times again, he would lose a total of 72 million. This is not a small amount. For the Wu family, it is certainly not a serious injury, but it is inevitable to be scolded when he returns home. This Kuan'Yao, do it yourself." Mi Xiaonan completely lost confidence at this time. Mi Xiaonan could not be a coward at this time. Gritting his teeth, he said, "Then let's do it again. I don't believe in this evil. Shuffle the cards." Wu Kuan'Yao didn't think about cheating at this time. The more he thought about it, the worse the consequences seemed to be. After shuffling the cards several times, they spread them out quickly. It didn't matter whether Mi Xiaonan remembered the cards or not. When Mi Xiaonan drew the cards, it was quiet all of a sudden. But when Mi Xiaonan drew the cards, the shouts of "Waiter! Waiter!" rang out again. Mi Xiaonan didn't hesitate this time and directly pulled out the cards. 2 of diamonds. The magical scene appeared again. Mi Xiaonan successfully drew out the 2 of diamonds again. Wu Kuan'Yao gritted his teeth and really wanted to throw away the 2 of diamonds, but he still added the fatal card and shuffled it again. 2 of diamonds. When the 5th 2 of diamonds appeared, everyone cheered excitedly. At this time, the hall was even more lively than a festival. In the last hand, after Wu Kuan'Yao shuffled the cards, he suddenly felt a sense of relief. No matter whether he won or lost, this matter was finally over. He was so depressed that he was about to collapse. Mi Xiaonan had completely lost confidence in his gambling skills this time. This time, he simply closed his eyes, without even watching Wu Kuan'Yao shuffle the cards, and then randomly pulled out a card. 2 of diamonds. The 6th 2 of diamonds. It appeared again. Everyone was boiling. Everyone was crazy. This time it was Su Weifeng's turn to be dumbfounded. Mi Xiaonan's situation was naturally caused by him. When it comes to remembering cards, his eyesight is much better than Mi Xiaonan's. So in the first 3 rounds, he had already memorized these 2 cards, and then used his true energy to give them these 2 cards. As long as Wu Kuan'Yao shuffled the cards 3 times, these 2 cards would definitely be together, and Mi Xiaonan would mistakenly recognize the 2 of diamonds as the ace of spades. This is simple to say, but if Su Weifeng didn't have the ability, it would definitely not be possible. But in the last round, Mi Xiaonan drew with his eyes closed, and he actually pulled out this card. It can only be said that Mi Xiaonan's luck is really bad. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291, 2 Younger Brothers. 72 million, you can pay now. Su Weifeng didn't want to let Wu Kuan'Yao off like this. This guy was so annoying that he would definitely not let him evade the payment. Wu Kuan'Yao's face turned pale. If his eyes could kill, Su Weifeng would have turned into ashes now. Su Weifeng smiled and said, "What's the matter? You are the eldest young master of the Wu family, but you can't even pay this little money?" Wu Kuan'Yao gritted his teeth and said, "Would I be short of money from you?" He did have a lot of money in his hand now, more than 10 million, but he couldn't take out more than 70 million at once. He called a few good friends together, and then he gathered the money and transferred it to Su Weifeng. Young Master Wu is really generous. If there is such a thing in the future, call me again. Su Weifeng smiled and disgusted Wu Kuan'Yao again. Wu Kuan'Yao gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, you are very good." Then he turned and left. Mi Xiaonan and others didn't have the face to stay here at this time. Who wants to listen to everyone mocking them? My friend, your tricks are too amazing. Can you reveal the secret? Yes, we have the money. Can you satisfy our curiosity? Everyone is not a fool. Mi Xiaonan is a master of gambling. If Su Weifeng hadn't done something, he would definitely not have been in such a situation. But everyone couldn't figure out how Su Weifeng did it, so they naturally wanted to know. Su Weifeng laughed and said, he was just unlucky. I can't do anything about it. Don't talk nonsense. We know who Misunderstandings is. Yes, don't treat us as fools. Su Weifeng shrugged his shoulders and said, I think I should be too lucky in gambling. No matter what kind of master, it's useless in front of my gambling luck. Oh my god. Shh. Of course, everyone didn't believe it, and booed. Okay, let's forget about it. Wu Kuan-I asked for it. Everyone has his own secrets. Zhu Jianben had also come here a long time ago, and he spoke up at this time. The eldest son of the Zhu family had spoken, so it was not easy for everyone to question Su Weifeng. They could only study privately and guess what method Su Weifeng had used, but after studying for a long time, no one could come up with a reasonable explanation. Taking this opportunity, Zhu Jianben also sat down. This is Zheng Yulong, this is Zhao Mingyang, you should all know each other, right? Su Weifeng said with a smile. Zhao Jianbin immediately said with a smile, I know them, but we didn't have much contact before, so you should get closer to each other in the future. Last time in Huaitang, Zhu Xiaoxuan executed Su Weifeng, and this time Zhu Jianben still had the same attitude towards Su Weifeng. Zheng Yulong and Zhao Mingyang knew that Su Weifeng had a close relationship with the Zhu family, and Su Weifeng specially introduced them, which was also a kind of promotion. For Zheng Yulong and Zhao Mingyang, this was a good opportunity. They were both children of big families, but because of the difference in family strength, they usually had no chance to contact Zhu Jianbin. Even if they occasionally met, Zhu Jianbin was only polite. How could he be so polite? Zhu Jianbin was also a very sensible person. After a few simple words, he walked away. Boss, you are my boss from now on. Zheng Yulong's lips trembled with excitement when he spoke. Yes, you are our boss, and we are your younger brothers. Zhao Mingyang was also very excited. Both of them looked at Su Weifeng with burning eyes, as if they would never give up, unless Su Weifeng agreed. Su Weifeng couldn't help but smile and said, okay, you two young masters, call me the boss. How will others see me? Zheng Yulong said anxiously, we don't care what others think. Anyway, you are our boss, and we will follow this boss. Zhao Mingyang was a little sober at this time, and hurriedly said, the boss is keeping a low profile, and doesn't want others to know how powerful he is. Didn't you see that Zhu Jianben just said a few words here and left tactfully? Zheng Yulong was stunned for a moment, and immediately understood, and said, then we won't call you the boss in front of others, but in our hearts, we definitely regard you as the boss. Su Weifeng said with a bit of a smile, then it's up to you. Haha, the boss agreed. Zheng Yulong and Zhao Mingyang were immediately beaming with joy. Su Weifeng got along with these two people, and felt that they were indeed good, and did not have any bad habits of dandies. In addition, it would be much more convenient to have two powerful younger brothers in the province to do things in the future, which was also a good thing, so he agreed to it. A gambling game made everyone know Su Weifeng. Everyone was also very interested in Su Weifeng, but after asking and knowing that Su Weifeng was just the manager of a small film and television company in Yangcheng, everyone's interest in Su Weifeng only stayed on his gambling skills. Zhu Jianbin came to a separate room at this time. Zhu Xiaoxuan was also here. Sister, brother Su, you are really amazing. What's wrong? Zhu Xiaoxuan asked excitedly. She didn't like to attend such a cocktail party. Although Su Weifeng was there, it was not convenient for her to contact Su Weifeng, so she simply didn't show up. Zhu Jianbin told her about the gambling game just now. I'm really convinced now. Brother Su's method can only be described as magical. I can't figure out how he did it. Zhu Xiaoxuan's eyes were also full of excitement, and he said, you are convinced now, but I have been convinced a long time ago. My sister is still good at vision. Sister, you should work harder and make him your brother-in-law as soon as possible. Then our Zhu family will have a powerful helper. Zhu Xiaoxuan blushed and said angrily, will this kind of thing be useful if you work hard? Zhu Jianbin immediately said, why is it useless? How do you know it won't work if you don't work hard? ZHU Xiaoxuan was stunned for a moment, then showed a gentle smile and said, what you said does make sense. ZHU Jianban said proudly, right. I can see that Brother Su can't revolve around you and chase you like others. If you don't take the initiative and don't work hard, then there will be no hope. ZHU Xiaoxuan thought for a while and then said, I can take the initiative, but I can't be too obvious. I can feel that Brother Su is not the kind of person who will abandon his girlfriend after having fun with her. He treats his girlfriend very well. That little girl is good, but compared to you, sister, she is definitely far inferior. She is not Sun Yumeng. Her girlfriend is Len Zhuangsun. Ah, not this one. Then he brought this girl out, which means he is also very fickle. So what is there that you can't do to her, sister? Oh, this. ZHU Xiaoxuan was a little confused when she thought about it. Is Sun Yumeng really Su Weifeng's mistress? Chapter 292. Sun Yumeng is the most ruthless. Before 9 o'clock, Su Weifeng and his friends left the cocktail party. Sun Yumeng had seen what he should have seen. He didn't need to exchange feelings with others here, nor did he need to make friends with rich young men. It would be boring to stay any longer. Back in the training room, Sun Yumeng washed clothes for Su Weifeng. While washing, she hummed a little tune. She was so happy. Yumeng, are you short of money? Su Weifeng asked with a smile. Sun Yumeng lifted her hair, showed a sweet smile, and said, no, I'm not short of money. My salary is enough for me now, and my family doesn't ask me for money anymore. I feel like I can save a lot of money every month. Su Weifeng said with a smile, I went out and made such a large sum of money today. The money earned from gambling, I have to share it with you. I have to share some dividends with you. Dividends? Sun Yumeng was a little stunned. Su Weifeng smiled even brighter and said, yes, I made 72 million in one go. I won't give you more. I'll give you a small amount. How about 2 million? 2 million? Ah, no. Sun Yumeng was so scared that she waved her hands and splashed the water in her hands all over Su Weifeng's face. Su Weifeng wiped his face and said, your reaction is too big. Sorry. Sun Yumeng quickly handed the towel to Su Weifeng. I was really scared. I can't ask for money, let alone so much money. I was scared to death. After wiping his face, Su Weifeng squinted and said, you really don't want it? Sun Yumeng shook her head firmly and said, no, Mr. Su, I'm just a little girl. I should earn the money I can earn. This month, in addition to my salary, I also received a lot of bonuses. The current salary already makes me very happy. If I have too much money, I will have nightmares at night. When saying this, Sun Yumeng's face also revealed an indescribable satisfaction and pride. Su Weifeng smiled and said, well, if you need money, just tell me. Don't be polite. Sun Yumeng breathed a sigh of relief and smiled sweetly, saying, yeah, if I really need it, I will ask Mr. Su. 2 million is a huge sum of money for most people, and it is also a great temptation, but Sun Yumeng was able to refuse so straightforwardly. This little girl is not ignorant of money, but has a special purity and persistence. Su Weifeng really hopes that Sun Yumeng can always keep this heart, then she should always be a happy girl in this life. Although the next day was the weekend, the course of the study class was still quite tight, so there was no rest on the weekend, and classes went straight to class. Today, Sun Yumeng and Su Weifeng came to the classroom together. As soon as he entered the classroom, Su Weifeng felt that everyone's eyes were looking at him. The students here saw the gambling game yesterday, and they discussed it almost all night. In addition to the inexplicable transportation of Mishan, Su Weifeng also won a huge sum of money. In this study class, there are really few people who can ignore 72 million. There are many people who are also senior executives in film and television companies, and the film and television companies are also quite powerful, but it is normal for them to have a net worth of 18 million. For them, more than 70 million is a fortune that makes them jealous. Especially this more than 70 million. It was won so easily. The 60 million, Su Weifeng won without even moving a finger, which is too enviable, as if each of them went up, they could win this money. Another point is that Su Weifeng has this huge wealth. which also means that most people here are not as strong as Su Weifeng, and they are no longer qualified to look down on Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng seemed to have not noticed the strange looks from others, and he and Sun Yumeng still sat in the seats they usually sat. Zheng Yulang and Zhao Mingyang came over soon, sat in front of them, turned around and chatted with the two with a smile. Zheng Yulang said, Wu Kuan'ai won't be here today. Sun Yumeng said, what's wrong? Zhao Mingyang chuckled and said, he lost so much money yesterday. He can't take out so much money by himself. He must have told his family. If he was just playing around, losing a few million would not be a big deal. But more than 70 million is definitely not a small amount. How can he not be scolded by his family? Sun Yumeng stuck out her tongue and said, that's right. He really lost too much. Otherwise, Mr. Su, you should just return some to him. Puff. Zheng Yulang and Zhao Mingyang burst out laughing. Sun Yumeng was embarrassed by the laughter and said, that guy is too bad. I'm pretending to be a good person. Su Weifeng also smiled and said, you are not being a good person. You are humiliating Wu Kuan'ai even more. How could I? Sun Yumeng felt a little wronged. Su Weifeng said, there were so many people watching yesterday. If we return the money to them, it means that the Wu family can't even take out the money, which means they look down on them even more. So the Wu family will be even more angry. Sun Yumeng finally understood and stuck out her tongue again, saying, fortunately I didn't say that yesterday. Several people laughed again. Wu Kuan'ai really didn't come today, which is a good thing. At least there won't be a fly buzzing in your ear all day. This study lasts for a week, and soon there will be only one day left. Every time he goes out, Su Weifeng always brings some gifts back. His parents, Qiao Yushan, and Lin Zhuangxuan are indispensable. Then there are the employees in the company, so bringing some things back will also increase the cohesion of the company. It happened that there was no class the afternoon before, so Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng went to the mall together to buy some things. Girls love to go shopping in malls, and Sun Yumeng is no exception. After buying the gifts, it was still early. Su Weifeng said, Yumeng, come out with me. I haven't bought anything for you yet. No, I'm already very satisfied that I can come out to study. Let's go. Let's buy you 2 sets of clothes. You are an employee of our company, and when you go out in the future, you must have a few decent clothes. Otherwise those who are lost will be our company's people. Sun Yumeng immediately exclaimed and said, yes, I not only represent myself, but also the company. I can't lose the people of the company. Let's go buy them, but I have to use my own money. Su Weifeng smiled and nodded, and promised Sun Yumeng that he would pay the money first, when the time comes. Chapter 293 Fitting Room. Boss Su, it's not good for us to go here, right? The things here are all too expensive. Looking at the big brand stores full of international brands, Sun Yumeng pulled Su Weifeng's arm and leaned back. Su Weifeng smiled and said, we have received such a large sum of money this time. Our company will soon be a large company with assets of over 100 million yuan. The company's employees will naturally pay more attention to their image. How can small brands match the image of our company? Sun Yumeng said with a bitter face, but these things are too expensive. The company's image is the responsibility of the company. Let's go, and the public funds will be reimbursed. Su Weifeng pulled Sun Yumeng into a store without saying anything. Sun Yumeng knew this brand before, but she had never been in. She just checked it online, because she needed it when writing a script. But after she really came in, she secretly glanced at the prices on the clothes, and she felt guilty, and wanted to run away. Su Weifeng saw that Sun Yumeng had no intention of actively choosing clothes. He directly asked the waiter to help Sun Yumeng choose a few more suitable clothes. Sun Yumeng then reluctantly went into the fitting room to try on clothes. After trying on a few sets, Su Weifeng shook his head and said, these clothes are nice, but they don't suit your temperament. You look too mature. Then let's go to another store. When Sun Yumeng heard that she was not going to buy, she immediately pulled Su Weifeng out happily. Su Weifeng couldn't help but smile and said, Yumeng, other girls would be eager to buy a few sets of clothes from such big brands, but you are afraid that I will buy them for you. Sun Yumeng pouted and said, I just feel that my current ability cannot support such a big brand, so I feel very awkward. Su Weifeng was stunned for a moment, then chuckled and said, "This is indeed my fault. I only care about my feelings, and don't think about your feelings. Then let's not go to these big brand stores, okay?" Sun Yumeng nodded happily. Su Weifeng said again, "But we can't buy ordinary clothes. Let's go to some mid-range brand stores, okay? As long as we don't go to the big brand stores that scare Sun Yumeng. Sun Yumeng is still relatively easy to accept." This time Su Weifeng let Sun Yumeng pick what she likes. Sun Yumeng was also much more comfortable, and the little girl went to pick clothes by herself. After choosing a dress, Sun Yumeng went to the fitting room to try it on, and Su Weifeng was waiting at the door. After a while, Sun Yumeng opened the door, but only stuck her head out, and looked at Su Weifeng with an embarrassed face. "What's wrong?" Su Weifeng asked in confusion. "The zipper caught my hair," Sun Yumeng said with a bitter face. Su Weifeng said, "Is that so? I'll find a waiter to help you." "No, no, no." Sun Yumeng hurriedly stopped Su Weifeng in a panic. "Why?" Su Weifeng looked at Sun Yumeng in confusion. "What if I break it, and they ask me to pay for it? Or, you come and help me?" Sun Yumeng's face turned red. After she finished speaking, Su Weifeng couldn't help but smile. This little girl's thoughts were sometimes so strange. "Okay, then I'll help you." Su Weifeng nodded, and went into the fitting room. The fitting room was so small, that it was barely enough for one person. If two people stood here, they would almost be touching each other. Sun Yumeng clasped her hands in front of her chest, and said with a red face, "Thank you for your help. Why are you being so polite to me? Turn around and I'll help you." Sun Yumeng turned around, and Su Weifeng saw that the zipper at the back was only halfway drawn, and the zipper head had already caught Sun Yumeng's hair. The clothes on top were still spread out, inevitably revealing a large area of white. Su Weifeng took a breath, put aside his distracting thoughts, gently pinched Sun Yumeng's hair with one hand, held the zipper head with the other hand, and gently pulled it down. The action was very gentle, so as not to hurt Sun Yumeng. It might be that Sun Yumeng took too long to do it herself, and her hair was completely entangled in the zipper head. This thing was not a problem that could be solved violently. Su Weifeng could only carefully pull Sun Yumeng's hair out little by little. After a few times, Su Weifeng felt Sun Yumeng's body trembling slightly. "Does it hurt? Then I'll be more careful." Su Weifeng hurriedly stopped. "No, no." Sun Yumeng's voice was indescribably small, like a kitten. Su Weifeng said, "Tell me if it hurts." "Yeah." Sun Yumeng's voice was still so small. Su Weifeng didn't think about anything else, and thought that Sun Yumeng was afraid that people in the store would hear it. Once again, Su Weifeng soon found that Sun Yumeng reacted like this again. But this time, he understood why Sun Yumeng was like this. Although his action was not big, his fingers must have touched Sun Yumeng's back from time to time. Sun Yumeng was just an innocent girl, and such a simple contact might be too much for her. Su Weifeng had no way to comfort her, so he could only pretend that he didn't know, and tried to unzip the zipper as soon as possible to avoid embarrassment for the two of them. In his hurry, Su Weifeng did let his hair down, but because the amplitude of the movement was a little large, he actually pulled the zipper from the top to the bottom. "Ah!" Sun Yumeng cried out. Su Weifeng quickly stretched out his hand and pulled the zipper up, saying awkwardly, sorry, I used too much force." Sun Yumeng quickly turned around. Her little face was red as if bleeding, and she said shyly and embarrassedly, "It's okay, I know you didn't mean it." "That's good." Su Weifeng wiped his nose and said, "Then let's go out, otherwise others will think that the two of us are doing something bad here." "No." Sun Yumeng's face became even redder, and she gave Su Weifeng a reproachful look, and followed Su Weifeng out of the fitting room. When the two came out, they almost bumped into a man and a woman. The two looked at Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng, and the man whispered to the woman, "Let's go in together." "What for?" the woman asked in confusion. The man smiled and said, "Don't you see that it would be exciting to do it here once? Go to hell, you big hooligan." The woman pinched the man, but there was an indescribable charm in the corners of her eyes and eyebrows, and she was obviously quite moved. Then the two of them also went into the fitting room. Before the man went in, he turned around and gave Su Weifeng a thumbs up. I don't know if he was expressing gratitude or admiration, Although the two people spoke in low voices, they were so close that Sun Yumeng could hear it clearly. She had never been in a relationship, but it didn't mean that she didn't know anything. She was so embarrassed that she wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. Chapter 294. Mr. Lin will not agree. This dress is very good. I feel very beautiful. Looking at Sun Yumeng, the dress completely matches her pure and cute temperament. Su Weifeng nodded repeatedly. Sun Yumeng looked at herself in the mirror and was also quite satisfied, especially when she saw Su Weifeng's appreciation and satisfaction in the mirror. She was even happier. Turning around, Sun Yumeng showed a sweet smile and said, "Okay, then buy this one." "Well, there is another set. I feel it is also good. You try it again." Sun Yumeng agreed and went directly into the fitting room. But just after entering, she ran out again. The fitting room in the store must be used by one person before others can enter. After all, there are clothes that have been changed in it, and if something is lost, the store can't explain it. Sun Yumeng's reaction made Su Weifeng a little puzzled, and he hurried over and said, "What's wrong?" That. Sun Yumeng stuttered, her face flushed, shy and embarrassed. Su Weifeng pushed the door and was about to go in, but Sun Yumeng quickly stopped him and said, "Don't go in." "What's wrong?" Su Weifeng was even more puzzled. The person next to him. Sun Yumeng bit her lip and couldn't say the rest of the words. Su Weifeng then remembered that he had heard some special sounds in his ears at this time, and he couldn't help but laugh and cry. Those two young people really came as soon as they said they would. No wonder Sun Yumeng looked like this. Wait a moment, let's go and see if there is anything suitable. Su Weifeng shook his head and pulled Sun Yumeng to continue choosing clothes. But Sun Yumeng was obviously a little absent-minded. Her little face was always red, and she didn't dare to look at Su Weifeng, obviously still affected by the voice she just heard. Although Su Weifeng knew it, he couldn't persuade a little girl about this matter. It was really too embarrassing, and the most important thing was that it would make Sun Yumeng lose face. After a long time, Sun Yumeng returned to normal and picked two clothes, and the two people came out at the same time. When passing by Su Weifeng, the man gave Su Weifeng a thumbs up and whispered, "Dude, it's exciting." Then he gave Sun Yumeng an ambiguous smile. In his mind, it would definitely be more exciting to do crazy things in the fitting room with a pure girl like Sun Yumeng. Sun Yumeng didn't know whether she understood the man's smile or not. After missing it, she bit her lip and said in shame and anger, "These two people are so disgusting." Su Weifeng chuckled and said, "Everyone has reasons to find happiness. As long as it doesn't affect others, it doesn't matter." Sun Yumeng pouted and said, "But this is a public place. Aren't they afraid of being heard by others?" Maybe for them, being heard by others will make them feel more excited." Sun Yumeng said at first, but suddenly turned her head and widened her eyes, looking at Su Weifeng in horror, and said, President Su, you haven't tried it, have you? Su Weifeng's face suddenly turned black, and he said unhappily, "Of course not." Sun Yumeng immediately nodded again and again, and said, "That's right. President Lin will never agree to such an unreasonable request of yours." Su Weifeng was speechless for a moment, knocked on Sun Yumeng's head, and said, "Am I such a person in your heart?" Sun Yumeng covered her head with one hand, stuck out her tongue, and said hurriedly, No, I thought wrongly." Su Weifeng glared at her and said, "From your eyes, I already know something. Go change your clothes quickly." Sun Yumeng ran in. The clothes here are still very suitable for Sun Yumeng. In the end, she picked 3 sets. Su Weifeng did not give Sun Yumeng the opportunity to pay for it herself, and directly swiped the card for her. Sun Yumeng did not dwell on this matter this time, and happily left them all with Su Weifeng. It was already late at this time, and the two found a restaurant to eat, and then went directly to a famous theater in the province. The class issued tickets to the theater, which was a stage play. When they arrived at the theater, there were quite a few people. Now people's living standards are getting higher and higher, and their pursuit of spiritual life is also getting higher and higher. This kind of stage play that no one cared about before now has many audiences. But almost no one in the class came. Their lives are more colorful, and not many are interested in this kind of stage play. Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng had nothing to do, and Sun Yumeng also wanted to see it, so they came to enjoy it. After leaving their purchases, they entered the venue and found seats to sit down. It looked like the surroundings were relatively empty, with no one around them. It was quite quiet. Sun Yumeng was very happy and said, "This kind of stage play has higher requirements for actors. Movies and TV series have been filmed countless times, and they just pick the most suitable ones. But the actors here cannot make any mistakes from beginning to end. This is what really tests their acting skills." Su Weifeng smiled and said, "You are really knowledgeable." Sun Yumeng was a little proud and said, "I have to consider these when I'm creating. Whether the scene is suitable for the actor's performance, and whether there is enough room for error." "Awesome. Our great screenwriter Sun is getting better and better." Sun Yumeng twisted her body, pouted her lips, and said, "Mr. Su, are you making fun of me?" "No." Su Weifeng said seriously, "Although you are only a small screenwriter now, I feel that you love to study so much, and are very hardworking. As your life experiences become richer, your abilities will become stronger and stronger. Sooner or later, you will become a nationally famous screenwriter. Do you really believe it?" Sun Yumeng grabbed Su Weifeng's hand, her excited eyes full of anticipation. Su Weifeng nodded affirmatively and said, "I believe it very much. Thank you, Mr. Su. I will definitely work hard." Sun Yumeng waved her hands vigorously. After receiving Su Weifeng's affirmation, she felt that her whole body was full of energy. The stage play began, and the two stopped talking and watched the play attentively. At the beginning, it was a bit boring, but as the plot deepened, Su Weifeng was also fascinated by it. "My stomach is uncomfortable. I have to go out for a while." Sun Yumeng put her mouth close to Su Weifeng's ear and whispered, "Oh, then you go quickly." After Sun Yumeng went out, Sun Yumeng continued to watch the play, but after a while, Sun Yumeng had not come back yet. This made him a little worried. He got up and found the bathroom. He asked a cleaning lady to go into the bathroom and look around, but Sun Yumeng was not in the bathroom. At this time, the mobile phone rang, and Su Weifeng answered it immediately. "Su Weifeng, your sister is in my hands. I'll wait for you at Jinling Disco." This voice was clearly from that guy Wu Kuanao. "Okay, I'll be there right away." Su Weifeng's tone was very calm, but there was an indescribable chill in it. Chapter 295. Wu Kuanao is about to be pissed off. Jinling Disco. In a large room on the third floor, Wu Kuanao finished his phone call and looked at Sun Yumeng, who was standing there trembling. He smiled grimly and said, "Little girl, are you scared now?" Sun Yumeng had just come out of the bathroom when a towel suddenly covered her mouth and nose. Then she didn't know anything. When she woke up, she found herself here. Seeing 7 or 8 people here, all men, it was clearly not a theater, so she was particularly scared. But when she recognized Wu Kuanao, her courage suddenly emerged, her body stopped shaking, and she bit her lip and said, "Wu Kuanao, what do you want to do?" "What?" Wu Kuanao leaned on the sofa, crossed his legs, took a sip of red wine, and then said slowly, "Su Weifeng, that little bastard, made me so embarrassed. Do you think I can let him go?" Sun Yumeng looked at Wu Kuanao, shook her head gently, and said, "We are all classmates. I advise you to give up this idea. If President Su comes later, you will be miserable." Cough cough. Wu Kuanao was choked by the wine in her mouth, and coughed several times before she recovered. She stared at Sun Yumeng with wide eyes and said, "Little girl, do you know the situation you are in now?" "I know. You tied me here." "Alas, you are so confused." Sun Yumeng shook her head repeatedly. "You said I was confused." Wu Kuanao stood up in anger and said, "Do you know the situation you are in now? Do you know how I'm going to deal with Su Weifeng?" Sun Yumeng glanced at everyone in the room, nodded, and said, "Of course I know. You said it when you called just now. You want Mr. Su to come over, and you have so many people, so you want to beat him up." Wu Kuanao shouted angrily, "Since you know, why do you still talk to me like this? I just know what you are thinking, so I advised you. Although you have some conflicts with Mr. Su, if you have any demands, you can communicate with him calmly. Mr. Su is a very good person and the most reasonable. But if you do this now, it will anger Mr. Su." At this point, Sun Yumeng shook his head again, sighed, and said, "That's why I advised you. Send me back quickly, and I will tell Mr. Su not to come over." You. Wu Kuan'ai was so angry that he was about to spurt blood. Su Weifeng, that guy, didn't take him seriously, so he pretended in various ways. Now this cute and scary little girl actually looked down on him. Who is he? He is the son of the Wu family, but even a small screenwriter in a small company can look down on him. How can he not be furious? Sun Yumeng said earnestly, Wu Kuan'ai, we are classmates. I really advise you kindly. You really can't make the same mistake again and again. Wu Kuan'ai slammed the wine glass in his hand to the ground and roared angrily, shut up. If you dare to speak again, I will kill you. Sun Yumeng jumped back a step in fear and said a little aggrievedly, classmate Wu Kuan'ai, I really have good intentions. Shut up. Shut up. Wu Kuan'ai jumped over and slapped Sun Yumeng's face hard. Sun Yumeng was hit and turned around. Fortunately, he turned to the wall and held onto the wall without falling. Covering her hot face, Sun Yumeng did not cry this time. Instead, she sighed softly and said, how can you be so impulsive? If you hit me, it will only increase President Su's anger. You are really getting deeper and deeper. Sun Yumeng actually used this tone and this look to him at this time, which made Wu Kuan'ai even more furious. He pulled his hair hard and said, little girl, believe it or not, I will kill you now. Sun Yumeng still said earnestly, if you hit me, I won't let President Su see it, and I won't say it. That's better. If you kill me, then, alas, I'm just a little girl, my life is worthless, but you are the young master of a big family, your body is noble, because of me, that's not worth it. Wu Kuan'ai almost rushed over to hit Sun Yumeng again. Fortunately, the door was pushed open at this time, and a man came in and said, Mr. Wu, that kid is here. Bring him to me. Wu Kuan'ai felt that he finally had a place to vent his anger. He now realized that no matter what he faced, he didn't want to face Sun Yumeng's persuasion. For him, this was just like facing the nagging Tang monk. But he didn't know that Sun Yumeng was really doing it for his own good. Su Weifeng entered the room and came to Sun Yumeng's side in one step. He said, what did they do to you? Sun Yumeng quickly turned her head away, fearing that Su Weifeng would see the palm print on her face, and said, it's okay, we are all classmates. Classmate Wu Kuan'ai didn't do anything to me. Su Weifeng breathed a sigh of relief. What he was most worried about was that Sun Yumeng was violated. At present, her clothes were intact, at least the most serious thing did not happen. Wu Kuan'ai roared angrily, nonsense, I just slapped you. Su Weifeng grabbed Sun Yumeng's shoulders directly, leaving her no way to avoid it. She saw that half of her face was swollen, and there was a clear palm print on it. No, I bumped into him myself, he didn't hit me. Sun Yumeng said this, smiled bitterly, and said, if you want to hit me, just hit me, he is our classmate. Wu Kuan'ai was really going crazy, and said angrily, it was me who hit him. Su Weifeng turned his head, and looked at Wu Kuan'ai, staring at him with cold eyes. Feeling Su Weifeng's anger, Wu Kuan'ai actually felt an indescribable pleasure at this time. He puffed out his chest, laughed wildly, and then said, Su Weifeng, aren't you very awesome? Aren't you very arrogant? Today you fell into my hands. How do you think I should punish you? Do you want to listen? Su Weifeng didn't answer, but his palm was stroking Sun Yumeng's beaten cheek. Wu Kuan'ai snorted and said, I have thought of a way. Let me see if it's suitable. I will break your legs first, and then break your arms, so that you can only lie there and cannot move. Do you think this is the end? Waving his hand, Wu Kuan'ai said more proudly, you are just in great physical pain now, but I'm not relieved yet. So guess what I should do next? Seeing that Su Weifeng still didn't answer, Wu Kuan'ai thought he had subdued him. He laughed and said, you cherish this little girl very much, so I will do it to this little girl in front of you. And not just me. There are so many people here, everyone will have a part. I will not only make you suffer physically, but also mentally, then you will know what a big mistake it is to offend Wu Kuan'ai. Chapter 296. Experts are like dogs. Seeing that Su Weifeng's face was getting darker and darker, Wu Kuan'ai laughed proudly again. What's the matter? Are you scared now? Do you regret offending me? Then I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and kowtow to me a few times. I can consider whether the punishment method is lighter. Su Weifeng finally spoke at this time and said coldly, you have a good idea, but Are you still pretending to me? Wu Kuanao immediately glared and said, do you think you are a good fighter? Even if you beat a few people, it's no problem? Su Weifeng said lightly, you finally said something right. Heh. Wu Kuanao chuckled and said with disdain, do you think the people I brought are such ordinary gangsters? Let me tell you, I brought a master from our Wu family. He can beat you with one hand so hard that even your grandmother won't recognize you. It seems that Mi Xiangang and his ilk also said such things to me. Su Weifeng took his hand from Sun Yumeng's face. Sun Yumeng was touched on the face by Su Weifeng in front of so many people. She was stunned at the time. She only felt the warmth on that big hand. The pain on her face, which was originally burning and painful, was relieved immediately, and there was also an indescribable comfort. At this time, she immediately forgot the environment she was in and leaned on Su Weifeng's side like a well-behaved kitten. Touching the face to kill. This is definitely a touch of the face to kill. Su Weifeng took his hand away and Sun Yumeng came to her senses. Then she found that Su Weifeng was walking towards Wu Kuanao. She sighed in her heart, knowing that Wu Kuanao must be miserable. Wu Kuanao snorted coldly and said, Mi Xiaonan has come to you? He subconsciously thought that Mi Xiangang mentioned by Su Weifeng was Mi Xiaonan. Not bad. Su Weifeng replied lightly and took 2 steps forward. Wu Kuanao said disdainfully, bah, I found out that you are really good at bragging. If Mi Xiaonan finds you, can you still talk to me here? Su Weifeng stopped talking nonsense with Wu Kuanao and approached Wu Kuanao. Boy, you are really looking for death. Wu Gao, do as I say. The Wu family has 12 masters. According to their strength, these 12 people are ranked according to the zodiac. This master is ranked 11th among them, so he is called Wu Gao. Wu Gao is a man in his 30s, with a burly figure and a cold look. At this time, he took a step forward, a grim smile appeared on his face, and said, boy, don't be afraid, I will act quickly, it won't hurt. Su Weifeng glanced at him lightly, then looked at Wu Kuanao, and didn't look at him again. This made Wu Gao feel a deep contempt, and he was immediately furious, shouting, boy, you are really arrogant, you deserve to be beaten. While shouting, he had already punched Su Weifeng. Bang! There was a clear sound. This sound was not caused by any physical contact between Su Weifeng and Wu Gao, but by Su Weifeng slapping Wu Kuanao. Everyone here was stunned for a moment. What was going on? In front of a master like Wu Gao, Su Weifeng could actually slap Wu Kuanao. Wu Kuanao felt a burning pain on his face and was even more furious. He shouted angrily, Wu Gao, what are you doing? Wu Gao was really ashamed at this time. He didn't stop Su Weifeng in time. This was simply a great insult. In addition, he also saw that Su Weifeng was really not a weakling. Otherwise, how could he easily avoid his attack and have the opportunity to slap Wu Kuanao? Boy, you really pissed me off. Then he rushed forward, and this time he showed real kung fu. Humph, this is still a bit like that, but it's still not good enough. Su Weifeng suddenly punched him. The two quickly fought together. Wu Kuanao immediately shouted loudly, Wu Gao, don't waste time with him, just cripple me. Wu Gao really wanted to cripple Su Weifeng, but when he fought with Su Weifeng, a great pressure came from the opponent's fists and feet. Even if it was just a few short moves, he already knew that the opponent's strength was stronger than his. If you want to cripple Su Weifeng, there is a very appropriate saying, that is, strength does not allow it. He wanted to remind Wu Kuanao that it was very dangerous now, and he had to slip away quickly. But the pressure from Su Weifeng was so great that he could only resist with all his strength. Even if he said a word, he might be defeated directly. Bang! Su Weifeng and Wu Gao tried a few moves and felt that the opponent's strength was just like that. He seemed to be strong, but in actual combat, he still lacked too many things. He did not have the murderous aura of sacrificing his life, and he did not have the courage to fight desperately. He was a master who lived a life of luxury. He seemed to be strong, but if he really fought with people on the battlefield, if he met someone of equal strength, he could also completely defeat him. So Su Weifeng didn't want to waste any more time with him. He suddenly launched 2 fierce attacks, which immediately overwhelmed Wu Gao. He was kicked hard in the lower abdomen and fell directly out, stopping only when he hit the wall. Then he slowly slid down the wall. His face turned pale and then quickly turned red. He covered his lower abdomen and he couldn't say a word. He was too weak to stand up and completely lost his fighting ability. Ah! Wu Kuan'Yao exclaimed. His eyes widened and he looked at Su Weifeng as if he was a monster. This is impossible. Impossible. Wu Kuan'Yao shook his head vigorously. Wu Gao was a master in his family. How could he not be able to beat a country boy like Su Weifeng? Su Weifeng looked at Wu Kuan'Yao coldly and said, Wu Kuan'Yao, you usually show off to me, and I don't bother to pay attention to you, but you dared to arrest my people today. You are courting death. Go. Go. Come on. Wu Kuan'Yao shouted loudly. After all, he still had a few strong men here. Although they were not as powerful as Wu Gao, they were also bodyguards at home, and were also martial artists. If they added up, they might be able to deal with Su Weifeng. Those men also secretly complained. They knew how strong Wu Gao was. Even Wu Gao was defeated. If they went together, they would probably not get away with it. But it was their duty, and they had to rush forward no matter what. However, just as they thought, they were not vulnerable at all. In less than a minute, they had all followed in Wu Gao's footsteps. Now, you are the only one left. Su Weifeng had already stood in front of Wu Kuan'Yao. Wu Kuan'Yao retreated violently, plopped down on the sofa, and his face was full of fear. Chapter 297. Do you think the fight is over? What do you want? Su Weifeng, don't think you are great, just because you can fight. I tell you, if you dare to touch me, our Wu family will not let you go. When the time comes, not only you, but also your family, your friends, and our Wu family will let you know how painful it is to offend our Wu family. It would have been fine if Wu Kuan'Yao didn't say this. As soon as he said this, Su Weifeng's face became even colder. What he hated most was this kind of behavior that brought harm to his family. As soon as he stretched out his hand, Su Weifeng grabbed Wu Kuan'Yao's collar, and then with a swing of his arm, he threw Wu Kuan'Yao to the floor of the hall. Ouch. Wu Kuan'Yao screamed miserably after being thrown, and then angrily said, Su Weifeng, you are looking for death. I must kill your whole family. Very good. Su Weifeng squeezed out these two words from between his teeth, and then stepped hard. Crack. There was a crisp sound. Wu Kuan'Yao immediately howled like a pig being slaughtered. Su Weifeng's kick actually landed on his thigh. The intense pain and the crisp sound made Wu Kuan'Yao realize that his bones must have been broken. Crack. With another kick, Su Weifeng once again broke Wu Kuan'Yao's other leg. Wu Kuan'Yao rolled his eyes in pain and fainted. You want to play dead? No way. Su Weifeng snorted coldly and kicked Wu Kuan'Yao directly. Wu Kuan'Yao woke up all of a sudden, and then the intense pain made him scream again. That scream was really miserable, just like a pig being slaughtered. The people of the Wu family were sweating profusely at this time. In this situation, it would definitely be better for Wu Kuan'Yao to faint, but Su Weifeng didn't even let him faint, and let him endure that intense pain. This was really cruel. No. No. Wu Kuan'Yao watched Su Weifeng raise his foot again, and screamed at the top of his lungs. Su Weifeng sneered and said, aren't you going to kill my whole family? Then in order to avoid such a situation, I can only cripple you. As he spoke, he had already kicked Wu Kuan'Yao's arm. Crack. There was another crisp sound, and Wu Kuan'Yao's forearm suddenly swung randomly like a pendulum, no longer under his control. I was wrong. I was wrong. I won't kill your whole family. This is all nonsense. Wu Kuan'Yao is not a tough person. His arrogance and domineering all come from his family background, and from the fact that others dare not mess with him. But when he really met someone who no longer cared about his family background, and such a ruthless person, he immediately became timid. You are talking nonsense? Haha, everyone is responsible for his words and deeds. As he spoke, Su Weifeng had already kicked Wu Kuan'Yao's other arm. Su Weifeng said coldly amidst Wu Kuan'Yao's screams like a slaughtered pig, you just said that you want to break all my limbs, so I will do it now according to your request. Wu Gao finally breathed a sigh of relief at this time, struggled to stand up, and said in a deep voice, boy, you are very strong, but you'd better stop when you have enough. You are provoking the Wu family. Su Weifeng looked at Wu Gao and said lightly, what's wrong with provoking your Wu family? Wu Gao said in a deep voice, the power of our Wu family cannot be solved by your fists. Even if you are good at fighting, it will be useless. Su Weifeng's tone was still flat, and he said, do you want to compare your background with me, and compare your strength later? Wu Gao's heart sank. The other party's attitude seemed to prove that the other party was not as simple as the information said. At this time, two people pushed the door and broke in. Both of them were in their 40s. After entering, their faces were gloomy. Uncle Six, Uncle Six, he broke my arms and legs, help me. Wu Kuanao howled loudly again when he saw the two men. One of the middle-aged men looked at Su Weifeng. He was Wu Zhenking, Wu Kuanao's uncle and the second-generation disciple of the Wu family. How dare you touch someone from our Wu family? Su Weifeng said calmly, do you think that beating him is the end? What? Wu Zhenking's eyes widened immediately. He couldn't believe his ears. The other party didn't even plan to end it. This was simply too arrogant. Woohoo, cripple him. The man following Wu Zhenking nodded and slowly walked towards Su Weifeng. His steps were very slow, but he gave people a strong sense of pressure. He was the third-ranked master of the Wu family and he didn't make a move easily. But in the provincial capital, no one didn't know his name. Woohoo. He practiced martial arts since he was young. He made his debut 20 years ago and created his own world. At that time, several masters in the province were directly destroyed by him, and he occupied a large area of power. However, no matter how strong his fists were, he was arrested later. The Wu family made some arrangements to let him sit in prison for a few years and then bailed him out. After he was released, he surrendered to the Wu family and made many contributions to the Wu family. Although they were both masters of the Wu family, Wu Hu's strength was far behind Wu Gao. Even if there were two Wu Gao, they were not Wu Hu's opponents. So even if he saw Wu Gao injured, Wu Hu still didn't take Su Weifeng seriously. Wu Hu looked at Su Weifeng with a ferocious smile on his face and said, boy, I'll give you a chance. You commit suicide. Su Weifeng chuckled and said, as expected of a Wu family member, you are so good at pretending. Looking for death. Wu Hu's face sank, and he took a step forward and punched Su Weifeng in the chest. Su Weifeng swung his fist and met him. Wu Hu's face suddenly showed a smile, a playful smile. His strongest point was strength, and he had practiced hard kung fu since he was a child. Even if it was a piece of iron plate, he could make a hole in it. This hard punch would definitely smash the bones in Su Weifeng's fist on the spot. The fists of the two men collided with each other without any tricks. A huge force suddenly came from Su Weifeng's fist, and it went from his hand to his arm. Wu Hu had only used 80% of his strength, but now he quickly used all his strength. But even if he used all his strength, he still couldn't stop the invasion of the opponent's strength. Wu Hu's face changed drastically, and he quickly stepped back a few steps, and then he unloaded the force. Nothing more. Su Weifeng stood there motionless, and the expression on his face was also very relaxed. Wu Hu's face darkened, knowing that he had met a master, and the opponent's strength was probably stronger than the other two masters of the Wu family who were stronger than him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298. I'll beat you until you're scared. Wu Zhenking raised his hand to stop Wu Hu from attacking again and said slowly, boy, you are quite strong. Su Weifeng just looked at Wu Zhenking quietly. Wu Zhenking actually smiled at this time and said, I'll give you a chance. If you surrender to our Wu family now, I will forgive you for beating Kuanao, and I will give you the best treatment. You will never think of the benefits of becoming a member of the Wu family. Su Weifeng also smiled and said, are you trying to recruit me? Yes, I think you are a promising talent, but in this society, if you don't have a strong background, no matter how strong you are, you will have no place to use your skills. I think so. At least I can beat you Wu family members so hard that they lose their temper. You. Wu Zhenking's face turned green because of choking, and he gritted his teeth and said, are you sure you want to go against our Wu family? As for me, I won't provoke others if others don't provoke me, but if anyone provokes me, I won't be polite to him. No matter how others deal with me, I will definitely fight back. If he wants to break my limbs, I will break his limbs first. Whatever you Wu family want to do to me, I will do to you. Boy, you are so arrogant. You must have the strength to do it. Whether I have the strength or not, you can try. Wu Zhenking stared at Su Weifeng and felt that he had no way out. After weighing the pros and cons, he took a breath and said, very good, let's settle this account later. After saying that, he winked and Wu Hu went over to pick up Wu Kuan'Ao. Stop, did I let him go? Su Weifeng blocked Wu Hu's way. Boy, don't think I'm really afraid of you. Wu Hu was immediately furious. Su Weifeng said lightly, then I can beat you until you are afraid. Wu Hu's mouth twitched and he clenched his fists as if he was about to attack immediately. Wu Zhenking said, boy, what else do you want to do? What? This guy kidnapped my person and slapped her. Are you going to let this go? Wu Zhenking said angrily, didn't you break his limbs? Su Weifeng chuckled and said, that's his reward for wanting to break my limbs. Then what else do you want? Wu Zhenking gritted his teeth. It's very simple. My friend was slapped in the face, so I have to pay 10 million yuan in compensation. I kidnapped her and frightened her, and I have to pay 50 million yuan for mental damage. What? You're crazy. Wu Zhenking and Wu Hu both screamed. This was simply blackmail. Now someone is blackmailing the Wu family, and it's such a high price. Su Weifeng stepped directly on Wu Kuan'Ao's lower abdomen and said lightly, I'll give you half an hour. If you don't meet my requirements, I don't mind breaking him. Bold. Wu Zhenking's eyes widened, and he was furious. Su Weifeng chuckled and said, I've always been very courageous, especially for people like you. Wu Zhenking took a deep breath and said, okay, very good, half an hour, right? You wait here, and I'll make arrangements for you. Then he turned and left. Of course, he didn't want to raise money for Su Weifeng, but to recruit another group of people. Wu Hu alone was not Su Weifeng's opponent, but if all the masters of the Wu family came, they would beat Su Weifeng into pieces. As soon as he went out, several people came towards him. The two young people in the lead were a man and a woman. They turned out to be ZHU Xiaoxuan and ZHU Jianben from the ZHU family. Although they were of different generations, the ZHU family was powerful, so Wu Zhenking didn't dare to be rude to them. Xiaoxuan, Jianbin, what are you doing? ZHU Xiaoxuan smiled slightly and said, I saw my friend coming to your place, so I came to take a look. Your friend? ZHU Zhenking's heart skipped a beat. ZHU Jianben said with a stern face, Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng are our distinguished guests of the ZHU family, but I heard that someone kidnapped Sun Yumeng and brought her here. I think this matter has nothing to do with your Wu family, right? ZHU Zhenking was worried about this, and his expression froze for a moment, and he said, I think this may be a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Then let's find the person first. ZHU Xiaoxuan's face also sank at this time. The attitudes of the two people were enough to show that they were very angry about this matter. The word distinguished guests was not just a polite way of saying it, but the ZHU family really valued these two people. They didn't expect to offend a guy with no background. Now it seems like they have stirred up a hornet's nest. ZHU Jianbin was impatient at this time and said, Uncle Wu, if you have nothing to do with this, then don't delay us. Wu Zhenking had to smile bitterly and said, this is indeed done by our Wu family. Please come here. In the room, Su Weifeng had already sat on the sofa, and Sun Yumeng sat next to him. The scene just now still scared her. Even though she knew that Su Weifeng would get angry, she never thought that Su Weifeng would be so cruel and break Wu Kuan'Ao's limbs. Wu Kuan'Ao was numb from the pain at this time, and his screams turned into hums. The rest of the people could only protect Wu Kuan'Ao at this time. Su Weifeng didn't say anything, and they didn't dare to touch Wu Kuan'Ao now. Hearing the footsteps, Wu Kuan'Ao turned his head and looked. Now he was looking forward to someone from his family to punish Su Weifeng, and the other was looking forward to someone to send him to the hospital. Seeing that the first person to come in was Wu Zhenking, and there were many footsteps behind him, Wu Kuan'Ao thought that his family had really brought people, and they brought many experts, and immediately shouted to Su Weifeng excitedly, Su Weifeng, you bastard, I will definitely kill you this time. I will peel off your skin, pull out your tendons, and play with your woman to death. Shut up. A loud shout rang out. Wu Kuan'Yao was stunned for a moment. The shout was actually from his sixth uncle Wu Zenking. Zhu Xiaoxuan and Zhu Jianben didn't even look at Wu Kuan'Yao and came directly to Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng smiled slightly and said, "You two came here so quickly." Zhu Jianben immediately said, "There are actually some blind people who dare to mess with Big Brother Su. If they mess with Big Brother Su, they mess with our Zhu family. No matter who they are, our Zhu family will fight them to the end." Zhu Xiaoxuan chuckled and said, "Big Brother Su is doing things. Does he need you to show off here? We are just here to watch the excitement." As he said that, Zhu Xiaoxuan sat on the other side of Su Weifeng and said to Sun Yumeng on the other side across Su Weifeng, "Sister Yumeng, you are not hurt, are you?" Seeing Zhu Xiaoxuan, Sun Yumeng finally returned to normal, shook her head, then looked at Wu Kuan'Yao lying on the ground, sighed softly, and said, "I told you a long time ago, but you didn't believe it. Now it's like this, alas." Wu Kuan'Yao realized at this time that Sun Yumeng was not nagging, but was really doing it for his own good, but it was too late to know now. Chapter 299 Zhu Family Support. Wu Zenking secretly complained at this time. The attitude of Zhu Xiaoxuan and Zhu Jianben when they came in showed that they not only valued Su Weifeng, but even had some intention of trying to please him. Moreover, Su Weifeng's attitude towards the two of them was not the slightest bit of humility. Su Weifeng and Zhu Xiaoxuan sat there, and it was obvious that Su Weifeng was the main one and Zhu Xiaoxuan was the deputy. Wu Zenking had made a decision in his heart in an instant, and immediately said, "Mr. Su, this matter is our Wu family's fault. Our Wu family will immediately do it according to your request." Su Weifeng ignored Wu Zenking, but said to Zhu Xiaoxuan, "Let's go, I don't like the atmosphere here." Zhu Xiaoxuan and Sun Yumeng followed Su Weifeng out on the left and right. Zhu Jianben stood there without moving. Wu Zenking smiled bitterly and said, "Jianben, this matter, Kuan'Yao is just fooling around. It's not our Wu family's intention. We will discipline Kuan'Yao strictly when we go back, and will never let him cause trouble to Mr. Su again." Wu Jianben raised his chin and said, "Does our Zhu family still fear others causing trouble? If he wants to cause trouble, just come and find him. We will accompany him." Wu Zenking laughed dryly and said, "No way, how could our Wu family cause trouble to the Zhu family? Jianben, you misunderstood. I hope this is also a misunderstanding, but it's obvious that my eldest brother Su is very unhappy. You'd better not make him unhappy later." After Zhu Jianben threw down this sentence, he also hurriedly followed him out. "Arsehole, you are also messing with someone who is related to the Zhu family?" Wu Zenking sent Zhu Jianben out, and when he came back, he glared at Wu Kuan'Yao who was lying on the ground. Wu Kuan'Yao grinned and said, "Uncle Six, I really didn't know he had any relationship with the Zhu family, otherwise I wouldn't have dared to provoke him." Wu Zenking said even more angrily, "You didn't know he had any relationship? You are such a pig brain. Didn't he show any signs at all?" Wu Kuan'Yao thought about the interactions during this period, and his face suddenly became extremely ugly. How could an ordinary little person have the confidence to challenge him? And how could Zheng Yulang and Zhao Mingyang be so flattering to Su Weifeng? And when gambling, Su Weifeng was so generous, and he didn't care about a hand of 10 million. And when he was beaten that day, someone had already reminded him that the Zhu family's car was just here, but he didn't think about it at all. In fact, there were some signs that Su Weifeng was not easy to mess with, but he just thought that Su Weifeng was a local road deer. "Uncle Six, what should I do now?" Wu Kuan'Yao really cried this time. Wu Zenking glared and said, "What should we do? We have to do whatever they ask for. If they don't calm down, the Zhu family won't give in. We can't afford it." Wu Zenking looked around and said in a deep voice, "Don't spread what happened today. If I find out who is talking nonsense, I will sew his mouth shut. This is not a good thing. It's embarrassing, but there are deeper things. If other families knew that there was a conflict between the Wu family and the Zhu family, many people would follow suit and add fuel to the fire, and then the Wu family would be under greater pressure. There are countless families similar to their Wu family, all staring at each other. If someone makes a mistake, they would rush up and bite them. Su Weifeng and his friends came to a nearby hotel and sat in a presidential suite. ZHU Xiaoxuan looked at Sun Yumeng's face and said, "What a tender little face. It hurts me when you get hit." Sun Yumeng said quickly, "It's okay. I don't feel any pain anymore. President Su cured me." ZHU Jianben snorted and said, "Wu Kuan'Yao is such a bastard. It's a bargain for him to break his legs. Brother Su, I think our ZHU family will come back and deal with them so that they will learn their lesson." Su Weifeng shook his head and said, "Forget it, because it's not good for the two families to have a dispute over my little thing." ZHU Jianben snorted and said, "If the Wu family wants to make trouble, then our ZHU family can just deal with them." ZHU Xiaoxuan rolled his eyes at ZHU Jianbin and said, "Brother Su doesn't want to make a fuss, so why are you making a fuss?" ZHU Jianbin smiled awkwardly and said, "I didn't think it through. It's a bargain for them to have to pay so little money." Sun Yumeng's mouth twitched, and she said weakly, 60 million. ZHU Jianben laughed and said, 60 million is nothing to the Wu family. While they were chatting, Su Weifeng's account had already added 60 million. "Brother Su, are you leaving tomorrow?" ZHU Xiaoxuan asked. Su Weifeng nodded and said, "We will go back after the graduation ceremony tomorrow morning." ZHU Jianben winked at ZHU Xiaoxuan and said, "Let's find a place tonight and have some fun." Su Weifeng shook his head and said, "Forget it, it's getting late. Let's get together again when we have time later." ZHU Jianben poked ZHU Xiaoxuan, but ZHU Xiaoxuan pretended not to know. He smiled and said, "Be sure to notify Xiaoxuan when Brother Su comes to the provincial capital in the future." Su Weifeng smiled and said, "Of course. With your ZHU family backing me up, it will be much more convenient for me to go to the provincial capital in the future." ZHU Xiaoxuan chuckled and said, "Our ZHU family can rely on Brother Su in many ways." The two of them sent Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng to the training center. After watching the two of them go in, ZHU Jianben said, "Sister, why don't you work hard?" ZHU Xiaoxuan smiled slightly and said, "I feel that this kind of thing depends on fate. If Brother Su and I are destined to be together, then we still have a chance. If we are not destined to be together, then we can just be good friends, which will be better." Returning to Su Weifeng's room, Su Weifeng said directly, "Lie down on the bed." "Ah." Sun Yumeng was stunned for a moment. Her little face turned red, and then she waved her hands in panic and said, "This won't do. No, I can't let General Manager Lin down." Su Weifeng's face suddenly turned black, and he knocked on Sun Yumeng's head and said, "What are you thinking about? I'll deal with your face again, and go back tomorrow. If there are any marks on your face, General Manager Lin will have to deal with me." Sun Yumeng's face became even redder this time, and she threw herself on the bed and put her head under the pillow. She felt that she was too ashamed to see Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng chuckled and felt even more favorable towards this little girl. If it was another girl in the company, she would have agreed reluctantly, if not immediately. Only Sun Yumeng would refuse. Chapter 300 Qiao Yushan's Initiative. Just now at Wu Kuan'Yao's place, although Su Weifeng also treated Sun Yumeng's face, it was short after all, and he only treated the bruises on her face. Now Sun Yumeng's face still has some marks. After letting Sun Yumeng lie down, Su Weifeng gently pressed her cheek with his right hand. Sun Yumeng was still very shy at first, but after a while, seeing that Su Weifeng was always serious, she relaxed and said, "Mr. Su, why are your hands so warm? My face is getting hot too. This is a massage technique. I don't give massage to just anyone." Sun Yumeng stuck out her tongue and said, "Then I got a great advantage." Su Weifeng smiled and said, "By the way, were you scared today?" "It's okay. I was a little scared when I found out that I was tied up by Wu Kuan'Yao, but I knew you would come to save me, so I wasn't afraid anymore. If I said I broke Wu Kuan'Yao's limbs, would you think I'm cruel?" "Well, it seems like he was just talking and didn't really do any harm to us. So, it's a bit heavy." After Sun Yumeng finished speaking, she looked at Su Weifeng nervously, afraid that Su Weifeng would be angry. Su Weifeng narrowed his eyes and said, "If it wasn't me, if it was someone else, I'm afraid the consequences would not be so simple. People like them, if they are not taught a profound lesson, there will always be people who will be hurt by them." Sun Yumeng thought for a while and said, oh, that's true. Another point, what I hate most is that someone wants to deal with me and then involves my relatives and friends. I will definitely not show mercy to such people. If he hadn't arrested you first today, I might not have been so heavy-handed. Sun Yumeng's eyes suddenly softened, and then she showed a sweet smile to Su Weifeng and said, Mr. Su, thank you. Su Weifeng chuckled again and said, haha, but because of you, we made another 60 million today. Let's divide it. Divide? Sun Yumeng looked at Su Weifeng in confusion. Su Weifeng blinked his eyes and said, yes, this is the mental damage compensation you asked for. I have contributed, so of course I deserve a share. You won't refuse to give me a share, right? Of course I do. No, I'm not giving it to you, but I can't take it. Sun Yumeng suddenly became a little flustered. Su Weifeng said, this is more than the money from last time, because you just earned it, so it's your money. No, I didn't do anything. How can I ask for money? You even saved me. I can't ask for money. Absolutely not. Su Weifeng shrugged his shoulders and said, you got slapped in the face, so I asked for so much money. If I don't give it to you, wouldn't I have swallowed your money, and I can't feel at ease with it. Sun Yumeng said firmly, that won't work either. Anyway, I don't want the money. Su Weifeng shook his head helplessly and said, you didn't want the money last time, and you don't want it this time either. There are people who don't want the money, even if you give it to them. You are really a silly girl. Sun Yumeng immediately laughed and said, I'm just a silly girl. As long as President Su doesn't fire me, that's enough for me. Su Weifeng smiled and said, okay, if you want to use money in the future, don't be embarrassed. Now this money is equivalent to keeping it with me. Sun Yumeng's smile became even brighter. Yeah. After a night, Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng went back the next morning after the graduation ceremony. While still on the high-speed train, Qiao Yushan actually took the initiative to send him a message. What time do you arrive? I'll pick you up. You pick me up. Su Weifeng was really surprised. Yeah, you haven't been home for so long. Shouldn't you miss me as your girlfriend? That's true. Then thank you. After talking about what time to arrive, the two ended their conversation. Su Weifeng felt strange. It seemed that everything was normal when Lin Zhuangxuan did it, but Qiao Yushan's initiative seemed a little abnormal. He immediately sent a message to Lin Zhuangxuan about it. Lin Zhuangxuan immediately replied, that's a good thing. It means she cares about you now. Don't be funny. You really don't know what's wrong with her? I really don't know. Su Weifeng couldn't get any useful information from Lin Zhuangxuan. It seemed that he could only see Qiao Yushan and talk about it. An hour later, Su Weifeng and Sun Yumeng got out of the car and found Qiao Yushan's car in the parking lot. After getting in the car, Sun Yumeng smiled sweetly and said, hello, Mr. Lin. Qiao Yushan smiled at Sun Yumeng and said, I'm not Lin Zhuangxuan, I'm Qiao Yushan. Qiao Yushan? Sun Yumeng was stunned for a moment, looking confused. Qiao Yushan said again, Lin Zhuangxuan and I are cousins. Sun Yumeng stuck out her tongue and said, ah, cousins can be so similar. I thought they were twins. Many people say so. Qiao Yushan smiled and said, where are you going? I'll take you there. Sun Yumeng hurriedly said, that's so embarrassing. I can just take a taxi myself. Qiao Yushan said, you're welcome. It's still early anyway, and Weifeng and I are not in a hurry to go home. Then I'll go to the company first. Su Weifeng quickly turned on the navigation for Qiao Yushan. While driving, Qiao Yushan said casually, I just talked to my aunt on the phone. She and uncle are both at the new house. Let's go there later. I haven't visited a new house for a few days. It's a good opportunity to see how the decoration of our new house is going. No problem. Su Weifeng answered happily. I heard from my aunt that the carpentry is almost done, and she asked us to go and see the furniture. Aunt wants to move the furniture in as soon as the decoration is done. I think it's okay. When we have time, we can go and see the furniture. We can't let uncle and aunt run around for everything. Su Weifeng nodded and said, then let's go and see it this weekend. Sun Yumeng sat in the back and listened to the conversation between the two, but the more she listened, the more something was wrong. Su Weifeng and Qiao Yushan were actually talking about decorating the new house. The tone was clearly like a couple who were about to get married, but wasn't Len Zhuangzi and Su Weifeng's girlfriend? What was going on with Qiao Yushan? Sun Yumeng had countless questions in her mind, but at this time, she didn't dare to ask, so she could only suppress the question in her heart. The car stopped downstairs of the company. Qiao Yushan waited for Sun Yumeng to get out of the car, then looked at Su Weifeng with a smile and said, "It's still early, and I haven't been to your company yet. How about I go up and take a look?" Su Weifeng was a little overwhelmed. Once Qiao Yushan went up and appeared as his girlfriend, he didn't know what the people in the company would think. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.